Show me your moves.
And welcome. Good evening, everyone, to the Fire Nation. Good evening to everyone but the Fire Nation. Oh, I botched that. And welcome to the Geek Life, your source for all the nerdy news you need to know. Before we get started, I want to address the incident at the Capitol this week. I know a lot of podcasts and late night talk shows have had their say. And, while I resonate with their sincerity, I do feel there was something a bit missing, and I want to take this time to say it. Fuck you, Donald Trump, and the inbred backwoods base that you rode in on. Y'all are fucking traitors, and I hope y'all get treated as such. Anyways, if you're new to the show, we're a 2-hour mashup about all the pop culture news you know and love. We talk about TV, video games, movies, comics, and anything else that makes you feel how we all felt while Henry Cavill was building that gaming PC. Ugh, come on. Even straight guys can admit that was hot. I am your host, Dodd, the streamer this podcast needs, but not the one it deserves. And joining me today, after being found frozen in an ice and revived, Jake the Great is here. How are you doing today, Jake the Great?
I'm doing well. It's good to be back. Yes, if everybody's wondering, I had super COVID. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't have COVID, but but if I did, it'd be the super kind. That's just
right. The only kind you can get, right? Or the only kind you as a super person can get.
Exactly.
Also joining me today after getting kicked out of Hero High for smoking too much pot, Bronwyn the Warrior Princess is joining the fray. How are you doing today, Bronwyn?
Of all three of us, I get that intro.
Right.
I've been doing well, thank you. Just been, roaming around through Hyrule the day, and then sometimes exploring the Galactic Federation at night. Yeah, it's a hard life.
It's hard. Very, very hard. Well, it's been a minute since I've seen all you guys. What's been the latest binge? How have you been doing? As always, how have you been surviving the apocalypse?
Well, for me, Dodd, it's been playing countless hours of Cyberpunk so far, up until it decided to blow up my PC yesterday. And so we'll see how that goes. So stay tuned if you want to hear about, me trying to figure out if it was the power supply or the motherboard. Just, slide in those DMs. I'll talk nerdy to you.
Yeah, look, I hope it comes back from the grave, man. I'm really hoping that you can can revive it.
And I've been binging the fuck out of regular show. And I know that sounds weird, but I never watched it from start to finish. And let me just say, after about season 2, that show starts to get really deep into some character development, and regular show hits a stride around season 3 where it becomes it's definitely episodic, and they you get to watch Rigby go from this terrible shitty character to an actually good friend towards the end, and so it's nice. It's crazy. I highly suggest it.
I'm all there for some character development. Regular show's gotten a lot of good reviews in the past, so that doesn't really surprise me that much. Brahma, what about you? How have you been surviving the apocalypse?
Been surviving well. I really hardcore binged Bridgerton, so I'm just gonna admit,
oh, dude, I watched that too.
White girl here, but it was very sexy, very fun.
Oh, there you go. Well, sometimes you gotta dabble in a little bit of the basic. I mean, we got Jake over here still playing first person shooters, right?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, story driven.
Yeah, so I've been watching that. Littlest Nelly just said in the chat she's been doing what you've been doing with a regular show with Adventure Time, and I've been doing a little bit of that as well. I got back into Adventure Time. I used to love that show so much, and just getting back into it's really bringing back those nostalgic feels.
The HBO series that picked up in Distant Lands, I think is what it's called, and oh man, the last one was it was Princess Bubblegum, and oh my god, that whole story was really great.
Give me more cartoon gay romance. I am here for all fucking
dude. They're a great couple though. There's just a solid couple.
Gay cartoon romance. I love it. It was really good. I enjoyed every single bit of it. And I think I've been just exploring HBO Max because, surprise, surprise, I did the whole Wonder Woman for Christmas thing, and so I got upgraded to the HBO Max suite and started checking some of that stuff out. But I've also just been streaming a lot lately, and I've started doing a new thing called Free Game Friday, where I stream a free game on Friday.
I've seen it.
Yeah, it's clever.
It's
a clever thing,
I like what you did there.
Yeah, FGF, Free Game Friday. TGIF.
TGIF. Oh, I like it.
It's clever.
There you go. Make it. That's good for t-shirts. That's just merch.
It is. Before we get started, I do want to do a quick reminder to anyone that if you like what you see or hear on the show tonight, feel free to follow us at Geek Life Live on any of our social medias. We're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. We got a Discord. We got all that good stuff. Or you can follow any of us on our personal socials. Jake, where can they find you?
You can find me at Gonzo Gone Live on both Twitter and Twitch. And I promise, I swear, as soon as the PC's fixed, I'm going to stream again, guys. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. But, I just couldn't burn the house down this past time. So,
yeah.
Burn the house down, Boots. Yes, Lord. Let's go.
Brahman, what about you?
Oh, you can find me at Space Nymph on Instagram and on Twitch. And I forgot your question for like a second. So
you got it.
I've been binging. Oh wait, we did that already.
It was just your socials.
It was just your socials. You nailed it. You
got it on the first try there. So see, this is why you got kicked out of Hero Eye.
She spaced out.
Hey. Anyways, if you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter and Twitch at Roos Bane. But we've got so much of a big show for you guys tonight. Jake, hit us with that rundown.
Good night, Morning City. And wait, I think I fucked that up. Yeah, I did. Anyway, wake up, set aside. It's time for the rundown. See what I did there? It's walk up, run down. Anyway, jokes are so much better when I can explain them. This week in TV, we got headlines that'll make you say, hey, that's neat. The Aang Gang could be back in action, but this time its all access comes from CBS. Is the Arrowverse quivering with fear of shutting down? And who's next to be the Who? Or the Doctor Who? Or the Who, the band? I don't know. We've got some Who news. Then we're going straight to DVD for this week's movie news. HBO Max has Life, but Disney Plus has Soul. Robert Downey Jr. might go full Commando. I mean, Mando. He might be coming to Mando. And our eyes are getting wider thanks to Zach Snyder. We got some news that'll make you that makes the cut, like Snyder cut. Anyway, next, set those graphics to ultra high and overclock your PCs. It's time for some gaming news, and that joke really hits close to home right now. But the Nintendo eShop was overwhelmed by monster hunters. Luigi's Mansion finds a new home, and Doom is all the rage this fall, guys. Yeah, you'll see what I did there later. Last in other news, the UK believes cons can make a comeback, but they are only weighing out the pros. And PogChamp goes random after capital controversy. And then we will wrap everything up like we do every week with our deep dive, a look back into the dumpster fire that was 2020, and our top Zen, the best shit that came out of that dumpster fire. So let's get right into it with all our news from the world of TV. Braun, yip.
All right, first up in TV news, a new animated Avatar series possibly in the works for CBS All Access. This year has seen a drastic pop culture resurgence for Nickelodeon's animated Avatar franchise after The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra arrives on Netflix. Unfortunately, that collective enthusiasm was dulled by the announcement that original creators Brian Konietzko and Mike DiMartino were departing Netflix's long in the making live action adaptation over creative differences. It appears as if the stage could be set for Viacom CBS to reteam with the original creators for new Avatar content. In September, Viacom CBS officially unveiled the upcoming new service Paramount Plus, complete with 15,000 hours of more content and a developing library of new original programming. The final piece of evidence comes from CEO Bob Bakish himself, who made some intriguing comments. first noticed by Night Edge Media about the future of Avatar franchise during the company's recent quarterly earnings. It's unknown how long Netflix's new licensing deal for Avatar: The Last Airbender and Avatar: The Legend of Korra will last, and whether or not Viacom CBS will bring the shows exclusively behind their own paywalls when they are able. What are you guys feeling? I know you are more on the Avatar train than I am.
Yeah, I'm super excited to hear about this. I'm super excited to hear any additional animated Avatar content that comes out. My biggest question is, are they going to do it? Is this going to be something that's going to be continuing on the story after Legend of Korra? Are we going to get something that's going to be in between, Legend of Korra and Avatar: The Last Airbender? Or are we going to get something, that's even, something before Aang, Kyoshi or something else like that? Jake, what would you like to say?
Well, Kyoshi would be dope. But I really did. One of my favorite episodes from I believe, The Legend of Korra was whenever she goes all the way back to the first Airbender, right? And I was like, dude, I would have watched the whole show about that guy. Why'd they waste an episode? They should have made that like a whole spinoff. And so, I'm excited to see what they do here. Like you said, I kind of I don't like to be the overly positive dude, but anything. I'm glad that Avatar's had such a resurgence. I was a part of that. I didn't watch it back in the day on Nickelodeon, so when it came to Netflix and I started watching it and realized holy shit, this show's really good. And then Korra's even better in some aspects. I don't want to cause too much controversy. But they're both really great. And so anything in the Avatar universe, give it to me.
I feel that though, with The Legend of Korra being better, at first I started off in the first season and I thought, I don't know if I'm going to like this better than I like the Last Airbender for sure. But Legend of Korra grew on me, and I will still argue. Even I was talking with Littlest Nelly in the chat. Still to this day, I think Amon is probably the greatest villain in the Avatar series, and that's the season 1 villain. So I went from with one season to thinking I'm not going to like this as much as Avatar to this is clearly better than Avatar, probably the best villain in the entire series. Little biased because Steve Bloom voiced him, but hey. You also have Mark Hamill as Fire Lord Ozai. So, as far as good voice talent goes, you're pretty keeled there. But I think personally, I would like to see something going forward in the Avatar franchise.
Same.
I think that you can do Avatar even in the future and still have it work. It just works differently. And I think the more you compound on this universe, the better it becomes. And I like, kind of seeing that throughout the generations. And if it doesn't work, hey, then go back and just do Avatars 1 through zillion and a half, including Kyoshi's line. I mean, I think that you can always go backwards. So
the universe they built is so cool. They can go backward, forward. I think they can do a lot of cool stuff with it. And CBS All Access apparently has been doing a pretty good job with some of the original content that it's had. So while I haven't had a chance to check any of it out because I don't have a basic cable subscription, I think you need to either pay extra or have a cable subscription to watch it. I've definitely heard good things about the Star Trek animated series that's on there. Picard, I know, was another one that's gotten some pretty good reviews. They did the Twilight Zone. Yeah, Jordan Peele, ran up the Twilight Zone for them. So it'll be interesting to see what they make out of it. I'll definitely watch it.
It's definitely something I'm looking forward to checking out. It's definitely something that I could see, not just being super excited about myself as an Avatar fan, but other people jumping on the bandwagon, especially with Avatar's growth this past year.
Yeah.
But while Avatar has been growing, the Arrowverse has been dying. Jake, tell us a little bit about what's going on with the Arrowverse.
No, it's official that the Canary spinoff is dead. So if you were looking forward to that one, I hate to break it to you in this episode. Even as the CW continues to add new shows to its Arrowverse lineup, one potential spinoff series won't be moving forward with the network. Variety has reported that Green Arrow and the Canaries is now officially dead. The news isn't necessarily surprising given the lack of updates surrounding the Arrow spinoff. Green Arrow and the Canaries was first announced back in September of 2019 as Arrow was beginning its 8th and final season. An early episode of Arrow, one of the season finale served as an early episode and what they call a backdoor pilot for the spinoff, which would have featured Maya Queen, Drake, and Laurel Lance defending Star City 20 years into the future. So it was supposed to be like a completely futuristic setting, everything, which would have been, I guess, somewhat interesting. But I fell off of the Arrowverse train a long time ago. And I know a few people who have. I know The Flash is already wrapped up as well. And but the CW's decision to shutter Green Arrow and the Canaries comes on the heels of news that Supergirl will be coming to an end after season 6, and Black Lightning will be ending after season 4. However, they'd still have Superman and Lois premiering in February 2021, and Stargirl is migrating from DC Universe in season 2. So there, while some shows are going off into the pasture in the Arrowverse, it doesn't seem like CW is necessarily done with DC just yet. And so, Dodd, I know you've always been an Arrow fan. Are you excited for some of these upcoming shows like Superman and Lois, or do you think it's time to kind of like let these CW DC shows just go on about their way?
I think that when the Arrowverse started, it started off with a kind of core group of fans who was trying to kind of take the Christopher Nolan approach to a TV show. Right, we talked about it every week. It was a very influential show. It definitely opened the door for a lot of those different shows, but Flash opened the door for more ridiculous things. All of a sudden you had a show where you had someone who had superpowers punching, gorillas with mind control abilities. That kind of level of ridiculousness. And to me, those are really two fork in the road directions, and they went the road of punching gorillas. And what I mean with that is even Arrow went that direction more so in certain episodes. I mean, the season 4 villain was a magic user, and was someone who had, abilities that's far beyond what he could control. So I think that, the Arrowverse served its purpose, but it's really going, the direction that it's going is only going to attract a certain fan base. I think it works great for shows like Legends of Tomorrow, because Legends of Tomorrow, at no point in time do I think it was ever taking itself seriously. You were going back in time, and you were fucking with Marie Antoinette's day. It's going to be fucking goofy, right? There's going to be things that are silly about it. And I thought that was a really cool way to explore the DC universe. And I think that you can be tropey in a show like that. That show really leans into it. But shows like Arrow, like as the further they got away from that grounding in reality, the more the show suffered. And I really was a longtime fan of the show, but it did feel like a chore watching it towards the end of those seasons just to know how it all resolves itself. So I can see 100% why it's dying. I think Black Lightning is a great example of a show that struggles in between that seriousness and that grounding realization. I think Flash is still going, but Superman and Lois is definitely veering off in that crazy direction. Same for Stargirl, same for some of these other shows, and they will have their good audience. But I think that it's going to continue rolling in that direction. I don't think it's going anywhere. For the short answer.
Nah, I definitely think they're still going to try to pump some money out of these things, especially with Superman and Lois coming. I think, Arrow definitely is wrapping up because, Jesus, 8 seasons. Yeah. And like you said, dude, it started to become a chore, like to watch it. I was like, but I think it'll be interesting to see what CW continues to produce after, one of its big dogs are finally done. Oh, yeah, no, I may have misspoke on Flash. I need to look that up. I thought it was over.
Yeah.
Well, Flash still going too?
But that tells you how popular it's right now. Like,
my bad.
Like that does say something about it, So I feel like that stands where it is. Well, while the Arrowverse is departing, speaking of departures as well, Jodie Whittaker has decided to exit Doctor Who. That's right. The 30-year-old has told her bosses that she intends to stick to the traditional rule of leaving after 3 stints in the TARDIS, like a majority of her predecessors. One of the insiders said it's very hush-hush, but it's known that Jodie is leaving and they're gearing up for another regeneration. Her departure is top secret, but at some point over the coming months, the arrival of the 14th Doctor will need to be filmed. It's very exciting. Insiders claim that Whittaker is keen on taking other roles. And it's just really interesting to see. I mean, this is the first time we've had a female Doctor ever.
Yeah.
And personally, she's been one of my favorites. She's really wacky. She brings a lot of life to the character, and you know, I love what she's done with it. But you know, she's saying that she wants to be a traditionalist and stick to just the 3 years of being on there. But like honestly, if you have a chance to be the Doctor for another season, you're gonna roll with it. Like there's a reason that she's leaving Doctor Who. So I don't know where the animosity necessarily is coming from, but I think that there is. I think that there is a little bit more to the story about how she feels about it. I remember Christopher Eccleston, the first Doctor in the New Who series, left on a very similar manner. So I think that it's safe to say. I know neither.
It sounds like a peaceful transition.
It is. It does. It does.
Every 3 years, it sounds like. And look, she's ready to step down. That's more than you can say for the president of the United States. So
hey, you know, there's something to be said there. Now, the question that begs to next is kind of who comes into that position next. And one of the suggestions that was thrown around out there is Whoopi Goldberg actually wanted to play the Doctor Who role and says that her BBC boss has turned her down. Personally, I think Whoopi would make an amazing Doctor. She would have a very different feel than Jodie Whittaker, but I think it would be more along the lines of Peter Eccleston's, or not Peter Eccleston, Peter the 13th Doctor or the 12th Doctor, the 12th Doctor. The more of the old kind of seasoned Doctor, but still, you know, a fun kind of you know, wacky character. What do you think, Brahman? Do you think Whoopi Goldberg would make a good Doctor Who?
I think so, but I'm not sure if it would be something that captured her interest enough to like commit to like a 3-year residency as the Doctor. Do you think that she would like? Do you think that it would be like a long haul?
There are evidently reports that Whoopi Goldberg wants the wants a wants Doctor Who role. So I don't know if that means if she wants to play the Doctor or if she wants to play a role on the Doctor Who. But she says BBC bosses actually turned her down, which is interesting to say the least. I mean, Whoopi Goldberg's a high-profile actor. I would love to see her come in as the what would be the 14th Doctor, and yeah, that would be something that I think would be incredible.
If anything, it makes for an interesting year in the lore overall. I mean, let her do it for 3 years. See what happens.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. She's a big fan of Tom Baker. She's spoken to him in the past, and so who was one of the older Doctors. So I think that she'd be a great fit. She's you know, loves the role, and so I think that BBC give her a chance.
And it would bring a lot of personality and obviously a different take to anybody else. I like that. I like how everyone who kind of puts themselves I haven't seen every consecutive Doctor, but I feel like the people who I have seen bring a lot of their own character to it.
Right.
So I think that would be really cool to see.
It would be cool. It would be cool. Well, that's it for what we got going on in the world of TV, but we do have a lot going on in the world of movies. Starting off with the big battle of the streaming giants. Jake, you got a little bit more on this story. Tell us a bit what happened over Christmas with these two giant streaming powerhouses.
Yeah, the behemoths that are. Yeah, so if you were living under a rock, you may not have heard about it, but there was two direct to streaming movies at the end of 2020 that had everybody competing for views. And Soul apparently grabbed more viewers than Wonder Woman at the end of the day, which is, you know, I don't think too crazy personally, not like huge, but the jazz themed title was streamed by 2.4 million Disney Plus households in the US over the holiday weekend, 200,000 more than reported from Wonder Woman 84. The Christmas weekend provided the first real test of how blockbuster movies might perform on streaming services when released in movie theaters at the same time. Disney's Soul was pulled at the last minute from a theater slate as given as a freebie to 86.8 million plus Disney Plus subscribers. So Disney Plus has obviously done some good numbers this year. Samba, which is they're in charge of essentially like reporting streaming numbers and stuff like that, said that 651,000 UK households streamed Soul, with the peak in households with a peak in households in both the US and the UK occurring on December 26th, with 1 million households in the US and 135,000 streamed the movie, respectively, in the UK. And so tons of people were watching Soul this Christmas, apparently, which, I mean, it being a family-friendly movie kind of makes more sense than Wonder Woman 84. It's not to say that 84 wasn't also like okay for the family, but Soul was definitely more, you know, it being a Pixar film driven straight towards the kids. By comparison, 2.2 million households streamed Wonder Woman 84 on HBO Max, with viewership highest on Christmas Day. It almost hit 1 million on Christmas Day alone, which is pretty gaudy whenever you really think about it. The movie also generated 16.7 million in theaters, which made Wonder Woman 84 the highest grossing opening weekend theatrical release during the entire pandemic, which is crazy. It's insane to think that 16 million was the highest grossing film in 2020. But with the theaters being shut down, I mean, that's the reality, right? But did either of you guys get to check out the streaming wars this holiday? I know I got to watch both of these films, and you know, I just don't know. How did you guys feel about it?
I watched both.
I just watched Soul.
You just watched
Soul?
I think you saw the better of the two, honestly.
Yeah.
After watching both of them, I saw Wonder Woman first because I didn't have HBO Max beforehand, so that was the new service, and so I was like, got HBO Max, try Wonder Woman 84. I was very disappointed. I'm a DC fanboy. Like, I love DC movies. I love DC comics.
Yeah.
And Wonder Woman 84, hands down to me, was one of the worst DC movies that I've had out there, just because of the kind of redundancy of the plot line. Not the redundancy of the plot line, just the dumbness of the plot line. I mean, it's all about wishes. I mean, sorry, spoiler alert for the main plot line of it, but it's based around fucking wishes.
Wait, are you talking about Wonder Woman?
Yeah.
Like, what was the Pixar
I won't. I'm sorry, you haven't seen it, so I won't go into too many details of it. But honestly, like, I thought Pedro Pascal's performance in there was, you know, I mean, he's great, but I think that the writing was honestly very poor. And I
thought he was the only good thing about the movie. And Gal Gadot is obviously she was born to be Wonder Woman. I think she fucking rocks at that role in general. But like, everything around her was kind of shambly. Like, that was the biggest thing. Like, when the CGI was not that great. The ending fight scene, they were just like, they basically said, we've spent so much making Kirsten Wiig look like a fucking cheetah, and she still looks like shit. So let's make this scene at night. That way we can make it as dark as possible, so that everybody's just like, so we can kind of hide it. And I'm watching it on, you know, Jessica's parents' shitty Wi-Fi in Alabama, so the quality is already taking a hit. Like, I'm watching it at like 500, you know, fucking p, whatever. I don't know. And so like, it's literally already garbage.
It's basically 8-bit at that point.
Yeah, exactly. It was garbage on garbage. And so I was just like, fuck this. Let's watch Soul. And Soul was great. Right. So like, you know, if you go to watch Wonder Woman 1984, click out of HBO Max, go over to Disney Plus and watch Soul. There you go. That's my review of Wonder Woman 84.
And but in comparison with Soul, though, we all saw Soul. Soul had honestly, not to be cheesy, but it had a lot of soul to it. It had a lot of its own personality, its own unique message, its own unique look on afterlife. And because to me it wasn't drummed up like Wonder Woman 84 was for months and months on end.
And the immortal archaeologist said, and I quote, this goes back to like the Roman Empire. It collapsed and we don't know why. We know exactly why the fucking Roman Empire collapsed, and we know how. We know how long it took. And this is supposed to be an immortal archaeologist? Anyway, I have feelings about Wonder Woman 84. And so we'll do a whole segment on that.
Right. To me, Wonder Woman 84. Yeah, there was a lot there. Let's not spoil it too much for Bronwyn. She might actually want to see it.
Those were just minor side details.
She was there for the actual, you know, virtual premiere of the movie and met both Gal Gadot and Patty Jenkins. You should go see the movie, Bronwyn.
Definitely watch it, because I don't know if it's worse than Suicide Squad. I don't know if I'm gonna give it that. Like you said, it was your worst DC one. I don't know about that. Like I think Suicide Squad was a real heap of shit, and so this one may be right above that. But then it's really close with Batman versus Superman. So like, anyway, somebody at DC needs to take the wheel.
Somebody does. Somebody does.
Sorry, rant over. I'll get off my soapbox.
Well, anyways, moving right along. Bronwyn's looking really trippy on screen, but we're just gonna power right on through that. Because the next story is a little bit about who's known for tripping balls, even though they've lately gotten their shit together, kind of. Anyways, Robert Downey Jr. is in talks of being in a possible Star Wars role. Bronwyn, you've got more information on that. What do you got?
Yeah, sorry, I just noticed what it looked like on the screen. Wow. But anyways, mid-spoiler alert, in season 2 of The Mandalorian, Oashko Tano made reference to Grand what? You taught us how to say this, but I forgot. Ashoka,
So many times.
is that it? Ashoka Tano. Oh, okay, I think, yeah. Made reference to Grand Admiral Thrawn, which ignited speculation among Star Wars fans that it would only be a matter of time before the villainous character made his live-action debut, resulting in countless theories about which actor could take over the role. Now that his time as Tony Stark in the Marvel Cinematic Universe has come to an end, some fans expressed their support for Robert Downey Jr. taking on the role. With there even being some unsubstantiated rumors that the actor may have met with Lucasfilms about getting involved in the franchise in some capacity. Dodson, would you like to see him in this role?
Oh, absolutely. I think that there's hands down, if you can have an actor in the Star Wars franchise, Robert Downey Jr. is one to absolutely cast. He would absolutely nail that role and be bring a lot to it. So I think that would be a great casting. And who wouldn't love seeing Robert Downey Jr. as the villain in a Ahsoka Tano series with Rosario Dawson? I think that's a absolutely perfect setup. We haven't seen Robert Downey Jr. in a villainous role in a long time, even though he's kind of been like, even when he's a hero, he's kind of a dick hero. Like, think of him as a villain, that he, like, think of it was unmitigated being a dickness. I think that he would really strive there. What about you, Jake?
No, this is fucking great news. And I think it's an excellent cast. It'd be a lot of fun. If they do get somebody else, I still think this series is going to be rock solid anyway. But like, dude, Disney Plus, slow down. You can only make my dick so hard with this Mando stuff.
Right.
Like, you need to chill, bro. Like, dude, I'm just like, Mando had me living for Fridays. Like, I was essentially like working throughout the week, just thinking like, all I got to do is get to Friday and then I can watch Mando, baby. Like, and so now, like, you got this other Ahsoka Tano series or whatever. I just probably murdered that too. I said it really good, right? Anyway, yeah, I said I did it. I nailed it. I'm a linguist. So like. But yeah, no, and Robert Downey Jr. as the lead villain on here would be amazing. It's just all around great news. Disney Plus just keeps knocking them out of the park, which I think this is all still rumor at the moment, but I do know that like that would be just an awesome casting, in my opinion.
It would be. It would hands down be an amazing cast to see. So I'm excited about it.
I finally got my Disney Plus password, so I will finally watch this show and then be on this hype train with you guys.
It only gets better.
On that wavelength. Yes. It only gets better from here. Well, moving right along in our video or our movie news, sorry. The Snyder Cut hype train is a building. So this week, I don't know if you guys noticed on Twitter, Henry Cavill's Superman was trending on Twitter, thanks to Zach Snyder, as calls for him to recreate the DCCU are louder than ever before anyone has seen the Snyder Cut. Look, guys, we got to at least Batman vs. Superman was still Zack Snyder, okay? He still fucked that up, all right? Slow y'all's roll, okay? There's a lot of love going out there, and I get it. Henry Cavill's Superman was fantastic, okay? I do like Man of Steel. I am a Man of Steel fan, which not everybody is, but you know, there's been a lot of talk about you know, what Zack Snyder's plans are beforehand and for afterwards for the DC universe. So much so that Zack Snyder himself had to announce that he has no plans to make any more DCU movies afterwards. He said, quote, look, I never thought I'd be here doing this. I didn't think I'd be here finishing the Justice League, but the truth is, and it's been widely reported, I have no issue, and this is an old movie. This is a years old movie I'm working on. The DC universe has gone and branched off and done its own thing, and that's fine. As far as what I did, and as far as what my vision for what I wanted to do with these characters and the journey I wanted them to go on, it's well known that I planned on more movies, 5 movies or something. But I'm busy. I've got a lot going on. It's cool that the fans have so much faith in the trajectory. Yes, it's amazing. And I couldn't be happier. And I'm excited for them to see the Justice League so they can really drink the entire elixir of Justice League. But would I continue? I have no plan to. But like I said, I don't think I'd be here. So who knows? All right. So it's a little bit more ambiguous than I thought it was originally when he first, still kind of is a, you know, who knows? And, you know, the best is yet to come kind of way. In that way. So I don't know. Would you like to see a more Zack Snyder based Justice League, Bronwyn, or are you okay with Zack Snyder having his vision and then let the other writers kind of continue with the multiverse as it's been going?
I would like to see his vision carried out. I think that's what I would be more excited for, because I mean, we saw the last time somebody else tried to step in for what he was doing and how that turned out.
That's true. And you know, when there's kind of, you know, for some of them, some properties, they're kind of left in this limbo, right? Because Zack Snyder made this dark universe, and now like the Black Adam that they had planned for The Rock is now in this, you know, kind of, how do you fit him without the super dark Zack Snyder universe that you had beforehand when you had all these plans to fit a Black Adam in a super dark universe? So that kind of explains for the shuffling around with these characters and what they've had to do, and why, you know, the Rock's Black Adam has been announced for like fucking years and we haven't even seen him on screen yet.
Shazam was good.
Shazam was good. I don't know why he didn't try Shazam. Yeah. Why they didn't try to introduce him in Shazam, but they want to do Black Adam's own solo movie anyway. So I guess we'll just have to see how that goes.
I get that, but like, dude, they need to. The first Wonder Woman was good, and Shazam was good, and I would say Aquaman was pretty good. But then, I mean, like the rest of them, they've just been in some weird limbo. I'm excited to see the Snyder Cut. I definitely think we're getting a little too like hype about it to be saying like, let Zack Snyder have the keys to the entire castle, because like you said, he did do Batman versus Superman. And while the director's cut of that movie is better than what you saw in theaters, I'll give you that. If you haven't seen it, you know, like definitely like take the extra 30 minutes and watch the full Batman versus Superman director's cut. It's, you know, it's a little bit cleaner of a movie in my opinion. But when you have to do that, that's not a good thing. You know, like your normal moviegoer is not going to be like, well, I watched the director's cut and, you know, it was much better. And so like, you know, Snyder, like I said, somebody's got to take the fucking wheel over at DC. I don't know who's going to do it. You know, like if they want to give it to me, if anybody's listening, I'll direct your shit. Call me. We'll do it. I'll do a better job than Suicide Squad.
Yeah, for real. Well, despite the DC crashing and burning, in the world of video games, the Nintendo eShop has also been crashing and burning, but that's not due to any failures, but more likely a success of the Monster Hunter Rise demo. Tell us a bit more about this story, Bronwyn.
Well, the Nintendo eShop was down for an unscheduled emergency maintenance, which may be due to demand for the recently released Monster Hunter Rise demo. While neither Nintendo nor Capcom have specifically commented on the connection, the outages coincided with the release of the demo for Monster Hunter Rise, which includes 2 quests and 2 tutorials for the upcoming Switch exclusive. Yesterday's Monster Hunter live broadcast revealed a number of new monsters and details about the game, including the fact that a new ability will let you ride monsters, an ability you can test in the demo. The demo weighs in at 1.6 gigabytes, and Quest can be played at a maximum of 30 times before its February 1st closure date. If you can't download, we've got videos of great Azuka Quest and the Mitsutsun Quest for you to check out. Yeah.
We can check those out on my page when I get a chance to actually go through them. I'll probably get a chance to play those. If I get a chance to download the Monster Hunter Quest download, it doesn't break my Switch in order to do it, or if the Nintendo shop, the Nintendo shop's been up since this article came out, so we'll hopefully get a chance to do that. Yeah,
I would love to play it, but I ran out of room on my Switch, and it's really frustrating.
Well, delete something.
I don't want to.
What are you gonna? There's got to be something that you're not going to go back to.
I guess. I just downloaded, what is it, Hades, and I'm about to start playing that. So maybe I'll
Hades has gotten a lot of good reviews, so we'll have to see with that one. I mean, I'm very interested to see what your experiences with Hades personally.
Okay.
But,
I'll report back. Oh, get an SD card was what Little Nelly said.
Yeah, for real.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Well, moving right along in the world of video games, Luigi's Mansion 3 studio Next Level Games has been acquired by Nintendo. That's right. According to Game Informer, Next Level Games is the studio that brought fans Luigi's Mansion 3, and on Monday, Nintendo announced that they have officially acquired the company. That's right. The purchase was made to fully transition Next Level Games into a first-party studio in an official capacity. First Level's past history tied to Nintendo's name, with Next Level's past history tied to Nintendo's name, like Luigi's Mansion 3 and Metroid Prime Federation Force and more, this acquisition makes perfect sense. So honestly, Next Level Games seems like the kind of company that should have been a Nintendo property from the get-go, but just kind of was kind of, what's the best word for this? Kind of trying itself out in front of Nintendo, like, hey, we'll make some of your nice, amazing first-party games. I mean, like, if you didn't know that Next Level or that Luigi's Mansion was actually made by a third-party developer, you wouldn't have known. And so I think that this acquisition really fits within Nintendo, and I think it's going to be something that definitely helps them grow. What do you think about this, Jake?
No, it makes sense. Like you said, if you wouldn't have told, if you didn't tell me that Luigi's Mansion was made by a third-party developer, I wouldn't have known. It felt like a Nintendo game in every sense of the way. And so these developers are obviously familiar with the franchises. They're obviously super talented and creative. And so, Disney, or not Disney, Jesus Christ, Nintendo was like, hey, let's go ahead and buy up this the studio. And so I think it's a perfect fit. And it's only going to mean that Nintendo can hopefully continue to crank out some awesome Luigi games.
Well, let's hope more Luigi's Mansion and more awesome properties from Nintendo rolling forward. But speaking of rolling forward, or more like falling forward, Fall Guys has added that Doom costume that we told you guys about, was rumored. Now the rumors are true.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit more about these Fall Guys costumes, Jake.
Yeah, Doom Guy is coming to Fall Guy. Yeah, Fall Guys. A new teaser trailer shows off at least 3 of the Doom-inspired costumes you'll be able to grab during a limited time event. The Doom costumes arrive in Fall Guys for a limited time beginning January 12th, so right around the corner. And then, this is just another one of the many collaborations that have been talked about whenever it comes to Fall Guys. This game took the world kind of by storm this past year, along with, a lot of other really interesting games that we'll talk about later. But what do you guys think about this new collaboration? And are you excited for the future of Fall Guys crossovers? Have you played Fall Guys in a while, Dodd?
I haven't played Fall Guys in a long time. Honestly, I did try to play it a little bit on New Year's, and I started getting queasy again. So I don't know if Fall Guys is forever ruined for me, because it just makes me feel like tequila feels in my stomach the day after, and that's not good. But I know that they have added a bunch of new stuff in there, and they have been keeping it relevant. Honestly, it just hasn't been something that I've been able to get back into. But hey, look, if I can be a little Doom demon with a little like the Demigorgon or whatever they're called, I mean that's a pretty fun fucking costume. I think that would be definitely a one to make me feel, to get my interest back into Doom, if anything at all. Braun, what about you? Is this Doom costume gonna pull you back into Fall Guys?
No, I haven't been pulled in yet, so it's not gonna pull me in, and it seems like a great money-making opportunity for them. Good for them. They're probably gonna come out with a lot of other things like this that get people to buy their shit. So
I think it's one of many future collaborations, It's just they're too cute not to do it, and I feel like there's still a huge player base. And if I was still into Fall Guys, I definitely would, like cop this one because I mean it's just fucking adorable.
It is adorable. Yeah, I will agree.
Yeah, adorable and terrifying all at the same time.
Doom.
But hey, that's what would you expect from a Fall Guys Doom crossover? Speaking of adorable and terrifying at the same time, the UK is still planning on having in-person conventions in 2021, which is adorable in the sense that they could think that they could actually that they could still plan those things, but also terrifying in the sense of actually we're starting to get people back together again, and we're like doing this, aren't we? Kind of thing. Brahma, you got more of the story. Tell us about what's going on.
All right, convention and event organizer ReedPop has announced it will resume some physical events in 2021 in London and Birmingham. ReedPop says that provided it can be done safely, MCM Comic-Con will return to London on October 22nd through 24th. MCM Birmingham will run from November 13th to 14th. A series of virtual metaverse events will be held throughout the spring and summer. MCM Comic-Con London and Birmingham will be the only physical events held throughout 2021, ReedPop said in a statement. Tickets will become available online in the coming months prior to each event, along with additional information on each show's health and safety measures. They quote from the event director says, "We want to thank our fans for waiting patiently during this challenging and unprecedented time while we focus on bringing them the best pop culture events in the UK in a safe, responsible, and fun way. The enjoyment and well-being of our attendees, guests, and community remains our top priority. We can't wait to gather with you all again. Until then, our team remains hard at work to continue creating events with the superior quality content and show experiences that we know our fans expect." So it looks like they are wanting to get people together to enjoy these conventions. I am not quite sure what the state of England and London is right now, but if this was happening in the US, I'd be frightened. What are your thoughts?
It's definitely so most of the events that they're planning right now are for November. So that is something that it doesn't startle me as much. I think that, we are starting to see that we could be looking at an end of this by June or July. If that's the case, then events in November, may be safe. Is it hard to kind of think that this all goes away by that time? Absolutely. Is it hard to think that that event won't look drastically different? I mean, yeah, I think it will look drastically different. But at some point we got to get back to normal, and I do think that this is that November 2021 is far enough out to start making those plans. So personally, for me, I'm okay with it. What about you, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's the UK. They may have a better vaccination plan than we do. I don't know. I'm not from there. You know what I mean? I know like people in the US are saying like, what are you, 30? Yeah, you'll get vaccinated next year sometime. And so it's just one of those things where like, if you're like, younger, you're not getting a vaccine anytime unless you have some sort of like underlying health condition. At least that's what it sounds like in the US. And so I don't know. The UK may have something totally different. They're smaller pop overall, like which short for pop, Yeah. And then United Healthcare, like they have or universal healthcare. And so like it could be a whole nother ball game over there where like by November they're pretty much, going towards herd immunity. right? With the
Right.
vaccine, and then the people, because there's always going to be holdouts who don't get vaccinated, but the hope is that enough people do to where you can create that herd immunity, you know. And so, like, anyway, long story short, I think, you know, knowing that they're in November, that gives me a little bit more kind of like, yeah, no, that makes
Right.
sense. And like you said, we got to get back to normal. And so I think people are starting to plan for what that looks like, but not so much so to where like next month or next week, you know, like they know
Right.
January, February, March are still going to be kind of like gray zones, but they're like,
Yeah.
how's April looking? You know, like,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, no, November, that makes sense. That's almost a whole year away whenever you really think about it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's just a couple of months shy, over a year away. I think that
Yeah.
they can manage to do it, and God, I fucking hope that they're able to do it, because like
And
if
it'll,
we're
yeah,
if we're not if we're not at that point by that time, like that's gonna be
like you
that's
said,
like,
it'll be a little different. Like, yeah, there'll probably be some folks walking around with masks, and you know, they may even still mandate masks to an extent, you know, in some areas. And so, like, yeah, no, it'll be a little different, but like overall, I think they're gonna start, you know, getting back to normal, especially by then. Like you said, I would hope.
for
I really
sure.
hope. I don't know
I
how much
really
longer we can go on lockdown, bro.
For real, for real. Um, all right. Well, last but not least, we have our last story in the other section, and this one's probably the big one of the week. I
Yeah.
don't know if you guys caught this story earlier this week, but the PogChamp emote has been removed from Twitch, and it's never coming back. And if you're wondering why, well, I will tell you why. Twitch removed the PogChamp emote earlier this week after the shortly after the events on Capitol Hill, because the PogChamp emote, or the guy that actually is the PogChamp emote, Ryan Gutierrez, whom the emote is based on, basically tweeted out a tweet saying, and just so you guys get the context, a lot of it's been removed, and a lot of articles have removed it from here. But I want you guys to know exactly what he said. He said, "Will there be civil unrest for the woman who was executed inside the Capitol today, or will the MAGA martyr die in vain?" So Gutierrez, like, he's full on bootlicker, full on drinking the Kool-Aid, full on you know, Trumpian maggot, all of that kind of thing. Twitter pulled the emote from there, and now they've been left in the situation with what to do, right? Because the Pog emote is a very, very famous emote, right? It's something that is actually pretty crucial to Twitch. And it's really kind of foundational to Twitch culture. I mean, like poggers, the whole reason we have poggers, and like that's an emote that's meant to represent poggers itself. And so the vacuum that happened from that, from the fact of like, oh, we don't have a poggers emote now, Twitch has said we've got to do something to take care of this. And so now Twitch has announced that every 24 hours, they're going to change the face of the Pog emote and change it out for a famous streamer that's not a racist or a fucking maggot traitor bigot. But yeah, it's a huge kind of thing that shows how the events at the Capitol have really shaken all aspects of culture. And nonetheless, Twitch is not excused from its 2020 tradition of keeping within the headlines. Um, so what do you guys feel about this story? It is kind of, you know, the kind of, it feels like kind of like one of those, what are those uh Schrodinger machines, the Rorschach machines, where it's like one thing led to another, led to another, led to another. Yeah, the riots at the Capitals led to the Pog emote changing every 24 hours on Twitch. I think the stringer
Actually, like lay it out like that, that like what
right.
happened, you know, that's the reason why this Twitch emote's
Rudy
changing.
Goldberg, that's what it is. Thank
Right.
you, Laura.
But
Yeah,
like, I mean, overall, like, I think it's a pretty cool way for Twitch to, like, if you're gonna ban somebody who is a part of the culture, when you really, like you said, like you kind of nailed it, like that emote, like, you know, there's a whole thing. But like, it's just, you know, I think to do the random one every 24 hours is a unique way to have people coming back to see what the new one is, even, you know. It- Mhm. Yeah. But I first heard this as Pog, and I was like, "Whoa, man!"
I
Anyway,
thought it was from Star Wars at first when you guys were talking, and then I was like, just looked it up.
Yeah, no.
Like, PogChamp? Like, is that like I've never seen that one before? Is that a new video?
No,
Anyway,
PogChamp is one of the most classic emotes in all of Twitch. I mean, it's a big one.
I know it now.
Yeah.
This was called.
But yeah, it definitely is interesting to see something like this happen. And
maybe we'll get one. Can we?
For my stream, I would love to see if we could get a Pog about like here, screen cap that.
Dude, actually one for our Nerd Herd video.
Yeah, I have a one on my stream of Reboot doing the Poggers one. And I have like the Poggers Reboot for my stream. And so I know that people have done like a Poggers emote, like their own custom version of it.
I think that's why Twitch thought it'd be an easy transition, just to make a random one every 24 hours for people to use. It's just like, okay, well, some people were already using their own Poggers emote, and so
totally awesome. Just the emote that's used in chat is perfectly antithesis how I feel about this. All right, yes,
is that Red Foreman?
It looks like it. It's scared face. Like,
yeah.
But anyways, that'll do it for our headlines. We're going to take a short 10-minute break. Before we do, we wanted to say thank you for all the followers that we've had. Looks like we've got a lot of new people. I think, Lana, this is your first time tuning into Geek Live, so thank you so much for checking us out. Incubus Games, talking about Daddy Downey Jr. Take all my love as Thrawn. So definitely got a big Robert Downey Jr. fan there. Fattest Sax is here. Caper Doodle, Littlest Nelly. We've got everybody here. Thank you guys so much for all the love and support. We appreciate it. Anything particularly you guys wanted to bring attention to in chat that you wanted to shout out, guys?
Everyone's amazing.
Yeah. You're all doing great. Just
all doing great.
Gucci gang. Gucci gang. It's Iana Stitches. Is that what it is? Because I always read that as Iana Snitches. And so anyway.
Yeah. Oh, Incubus is formerly known as Saint Sinner. Gotcha. I gotcha. Okay. Well, it's good to see all of you guys. And yeah, we will kick it back out to a break. And we'll see you guys back in 10 minutes. And yeah, see you in 10.
Be back in 10.
Who's that Pokemon?
It's Christmas Melania.
Who gives a about Christmas stuff and decorations?
And we're back.
All right. We are back. What is up, everybody? I hope you guys had a wonderful break and appreciate some of our new content that we've got going out here. We have a special treat for you guys. For tonight, our deep dive, we're going to take a look back at the year that was. That is 2020 in hindsight. Well, folks, we made it 2021. In previous years, that wouldn't be much of a milestone, but in 2020 is a year like any other. It's hard to articulate into words what 2020 means for the future of our society. And it was literally the year the earth stood still in so many more senses of the implication. Stark political divisions, a civil rights movement, a global pandemic that shaped how we live and interact, but also how we socialize. House parties have been replaced with Zoom calls. Live events have been replaced with live streamed events, and content creation is now bigger than ever. Let's start off with the world of video games. The world of video game industry is expected to bring in more revenue than sports and movies industry combined in 2020, With everything stuck inside, the video game industry boomed. The global video game industry revenue is up 20% as expected to make 180 billion for 2020. In 2019, the movie industry brought in 100 billion, and Major League Sports brought in 75 billion, but it's expected that those figures in 2020 will be significantly lower due to the pandemic. Nintendo recently reported that its sales of the Switch and Switch Lite have climbed to 80% between April and September, and it said that it expects to move to about 24 million units in its physical year ending in March. Yeah, so up from previous projections of 19 million. Animal Crossing, released as lockdowns began in the United States, already sold more than 26 million units and is on its way to be replaced as the best-selling Nintendo Switch game ever. It's not just Nintendo that has capitalized from the heightened demand. Sony and Microsoft both released next-gen generation consoles in November. The demand for the PlayStation and Xbox, PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X has been overwhelming, to say the least, to the point where retailers like Walmart and Amazon haven't been able to keep it in stock. Do you think the industry will be able to maintain the pandemic momentum, or is this boom something you see solely existing in the pandemic? Brahman.
How am I muted? I don't think it solely exists. Maybe having numbers this dramatically higher, which is kind of shocking to me when you're going through that. But I think that anytime a new console is dropped, there is that whole like, oh, we can't like get them off the shelves quick enough, and everyone's like pre-ordering this, and especially a lot during the holidays and kind of like that Black Friday into Christmas thing. Like whenever the consoles come out, they don't have trouble selling. So I think that the video game industry is going to continue to boom. It's going to keep on booming, pandemic or no pandemic. People want to play games. They're going to keep coming out with cool new things, and people are going to want to play them.
I think it's going to be able to maintain the level of momentum that it's had over specifically over the pandemic and surging over even TV and sports as well.
No, I don't think that it will keep this post-pandemic. When you're drawing comparisons like that, I do think that the other industries are going to pull ahead like they were. This is really a unique kind of situation for that, but I still have a little faith.
I don't know.
What about you, Jake? Do you think it's do you think it's going to be able to replace the medium that movies and sports have been?
I don't know about replace, but I personally, and I know a lot of people who probably feel the same way, I think COVID really just expedited things that were already going to happen. I think a lot of people, some have said that we didn't truly live in a digital age until COVID-19. Like we felt like we were living in a digital age, but we did so much in person and like, person to person kind of things that like we weren't truly in our digital age until 2020. And I think like it's just now starting, and I think video games are going to continue to grow. I think movie theaters are in a lot of trouble, so the movie industry's got to figure something out. A lot of people stream movies via their video game consoles. And so if HBO Max is the future of movie going, someone's going to be watching that on an Xbox most of the time. And so it's just and so it's just one of those where like I think the digital age is here, and I don't think it's going anywhere, right? Like I think if anything, we're going to be living more online, and I think more people have come to gaming because of the pandemic and realize they like it. They like it as an escape. I know a lot of people whose first console since they were probably children, or if they've ever even owned a console, was the Nintendo Switch. There's a reason why throughout the pandemic no one's been able to get their hands on them. They've been selling out as soon as they hit the shelves. And so
the same pace as PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X being able to continually keep their console off the shelves because they've just been selling like hotcakes.
Yeah. People want them. The demand is higher than it's ever been, and I really don't see it going anywhere, even with the pandemic. I think COVID just pushed it to where it's gonna be, right? And now it's here. And so like I think video games are gonna keep booming. And a lot of actors like Jason Gordon-Levitt, I think, or was one, and like a lot have come forward over the pandemic that have gotten into video gaming or gotten into gaming and said like this is the future of storytelling, which is something that I believe a lot of people have been saying for a long time, but no one really wanted to get out there and really go for it. But I mean, this, you've played games like story-driven games that you felt like were better than movies. Red Dead was one of the best movies I ever played, and like 2 years ago or whenever it came out. And so like I do believe that narrative-driven stories are here to stay in video gaming, and I think video games are just going to continue to soar in popularity. Esports is about to explode too. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's been blowing up, and it's been ever increasing over the pandemic. I mean, the video game industry, of all the industries out there, it's been the one that's been booming the most. And one of the things that we've also seen with this is the rise of the indie gamer as well. So Among Us is a great example in the rise of the indie gamer, but Innersloth's growth was so large that due to Among Us' sudden popularity, had to cancel plans for a sequel and won awards in 2020, despite its age. Fall Guys and Hades are other great examples of games that also took away awards. I mean, people didn't even know what Hades was, but it was getting awards, the Game Awards ceremony, that all of a sudden, it's grown a ton of popularity. Why were indie gamers so successful in 2020?
I mean, I believe it's because of the price point for a lot of them, the accessibility. That's a big thing. A lot of indie games are much cheaper than the $60 price tag and soon to be $70 price tag for many AAA titles, right? A lot of your big developers, these games are they're kind of expensive. And so people who were maybe first time playing games were playing, essentially like, looking at Steam for cheap games they could play with friends, stumbled upon something like Among Us. Among Us went from 18 players to millions within a week. And so it's one of those where like it just goes to show that the pandemic really kind of made multiplayer games a focus. And so I think there was a lot of like fun little one-off multiplayer games, battle royale style games like Fall Guys that like indie developers were already, either currently developing just to get out there and test the waters, that exploded due to the pandemic and just how many more people were gaming during the time. And, like I said at the beginning, the price point. I mean, you got something as fun as Among Us, and I believe at most it's like $2 on something like, or whatever it is in the App Store. And so, yeah, like it's super cheap and you compare that and look at Hollow Knight. That's another great indie game. And like you said, Hades, some of those, like those are all like coming under the $60 price point. A lot of them are on Switch, which is also the console that's been selling out like crazy. And I think that was two of the big winners, during this whole pandemic in general. Or I'll say there was 3 PCs, because I think a lot of people when they were at home, even, on the cheaper end, had time to build PCs, dabble with PCs, get into PC gaming. Nintendo crushed it during the pandemic. And then indie gamers. I mean, Stardew Valley, even though it didn't come out this past year, is something, Concerned Ape, shouts out. I've loved Stardew Valley from day one, and they're an amazing indie developer, and they make a game that was a quarter of the price, and definitely like 2 times the value of some AAA games.
Yeah, Brahman, why do you think indie gamers were so successful in 2020?
So I think one reason, and this might be a stretch, but there's been a huge rise of streamers as well as a lot more people playing game. Like there are a lot more people streaming games. And when you're playing those or even streaming those bigger games, there's a lot more maybe competition for airtime. So you might try to pull from these smaller games, these indie games, to be showing something different. And that kind of builds and the fire burns, and people just start to really like be interested. Their interest is struck and they like want to play it themselves. I feel like a lot of that might have been the fire that fueled Among Us, just having that big streaming community of that. I know that's how I heard of that game, was watching people stream it and wanting to get in on the fun. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. That's absolutely a great point. Well, we mentioned Animal Crossing a little bit earlier and how it played a very unique role in the pandemic. People attended even graduations and funerals in the game as a stand-in for in-person events during the pandemic. Games like Among Us have been great for socializing as well, and have been filling a big void in the pandemic. What are some ways that you've been using video games to connect with others during the pandemic? Brahman?
So I think one of my last events that I actually went to in person, like my live event before the pandemic hit, was a League of Legends championship match. And then since everything shut down after that, I've actually played that to like stay connected with some friends and was able to have a nice old Bama reunion with some people over League of Legends. It was really fun. So getting together on Discord, which I started using a lot more. I wasn't using Discord at all before the pandemic, and then my Dungeons and Dragons group started meeting on there, and that spiraled into a whole bunch of other things. So that's been great. Also, you mentioned Animal Crossing, and I have been, especially during the beginning, going on friends' islands and seeing people that way. And that was a really fun way to stay connected. Not really any events, but more just, it's like a space to be able to hang out with somebody and to connect with your friends. And I think that was really cool. Right when it was in April. Yeah, in April, my brother and I, we both have birthdays in April. So we got matching Switches, the Animal Crossing Switches. And it was like the perfect time to get it because I think it was right after we got our Switches. You couldn't find them anymore. And I'm like, really like my parents did a good job. Like, great birthday present. You didn't even know how good that was.
You
didn't even know how good you did.
Yeah.
What about you, Jake? Any unique ways that you were able to connect with people through video games during the pandemic?
Well, I mean, we obviously played a lot of Among Us with some people, fans and stuff here of the show. The Nerd Herd shouts out. I know we've got a few Among Us games under us, but then also, I played Among Us with Kev, Fattest Sax, all those guys before we even did it on stream. And that was super fun. It was always fun trying to get different friends together. We were able to, it was fun to play like Kevin's been a Virginia friend of mine for a while. We've been working together for a long time, and he's known Fattest Sax for like his whole life too. And then they were all playing with best friends of mine from like Alabama, one from like North Carolina. And so it was fun to have like all these different friend groups together playing a game together, and so it was a unique experience that honestly, without COVID, I don't know if we would have got the whole gang like that, or if we would have continually gotten so many people to play together,
Shout out to Fattest Sax as well. But he's somebody that, as a perfect example of somebody who I met and have become friends with, never met in person, but we've bonded over games of Among Us.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of times where I've been playing Among Us with a bunch of friends, and then we'll just stay on afterwards and we're chatting, and then like we have a video chat and we're just sitting there and we're actually socializing. And it's the closest thing that I can feel like right now in a pandemic to being at a bar with a group of friends. And to me, that's a really sacred feeling to me. It's something that I feel like it's something I really took for granted beforehand. But that I like fellowship with my friends. I like being able to go out, especially if it's at a bar or whatever. Just before the pandemic, usually the most of the time I met, it was at bars, but it doesn't have to be there. It just has to be someplace where you can all get together and just talk and just chill and just shoot the fucking shit. And like time can pass and nobody can say anything, and it doesn't fucking matter. You don't have to fill that void. It's not content that you're trying to create or consume or whatever the case may be. It's just you being there in the moment and shit like that. There's a void for that in the pandemic. So playing games like Among Us seems like a little thing, but it gives so much more back. Like, again, I've never met Kevin before in person. I've never met Fattest Sax before in person. I've never met some of their friends that they've introduced me to before in person, but I've introduced them to people that I've met here in Austin that are now a part of, a bigger community. To me, that is a really cool, unique thing that this pandemic has brought, has been that we've had to find different ways to socialize. And in doing so, found new friends literally in different time zones. So that's pretty cool to me. But we didn't just use games to socialize. We also saw a huge increase in online streaming, as Brahman, you were mentioning earlier. Twitch boomed. I mean, it gained a ton of national attention, from DMCA takedowns to politicians using the platform to get out the vote. Twitch made headlines nearly every week in 2020. I made jokes about it earlier, but 2021 is yet to be an exception. It seems like society has really begun to understand Twitch's potential and are quickly working to monetize it. Would you agree, Jake?
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I definitely think a lot of people are starting to realize, just what is Twitch, right?
Yeah.
Like people used to look at me weird because I would do streams where we would just scroll Reddit and talk shit about it. And like talk about like, what is this crazy ass video that we're watching or whatever? Like, what is this? What is that? And like, just hanging out with people and like letting them kind of like scroll content with me, play a game with me, kind of like, get to know who I am and stuff like that. And people would always, like whenever I told people what I streamed, they'd always be like, "Oh, so it's you don't just play a bunch of video games?" And I'm like, "Nah, like that's not what all Twitch is, right?" And like even Jessica, whenever she started her stream, she did her makeup and she got a lot of views of just doing her makeup. And like it was because people would come in, ask questions about like, what are you using, what products, all this different stuff. And like I think this year has really started to make people realize that Twitch's potential is that it's not just video games. It's a lot more. It's a whole community. You can build whole communities.
You recognize that Twitch has more potential than just video games.
Exactly,
Clearly,
right?
yeah, like on this show brought to you live on Twitch,
Yeah.
realizes that Twitch has more potential than just video games.
Than just playing video games, yeah. And so like I think a lot of others really realize that too, and I think that Twitch is going to continue to grow. I really do. It's honestly a shame that it doesn't have things like Mixer any longer to be real competition with it, and that the only people around now are big dogs like fucking YouTube and Facebook gaming and blah, blah, blah. And so like, because I'm going to be on Twitch and I like it, but Twitch does have its problems, and without a key competitor, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. But then who knows? There may be a competitor could arise just because of the popularity of Twitch alone. But being backed by Amazon makes that super hard. We're going to just have to continue to see. But I would definitely agree that this was the year of the streamer.
For sure, for sure. And we did see them capitalizing on it. We saw the new pay to play, pay to affiliate status that they rolled out. Are you worried that we're going to see more monetization like this happen in the future, Brahman?
I'm worried about that. I think that everything, especially everything that starts at that free or just like low entry point, like eventually builds into something more. Like even today, I was listening to SoundCloud on my phone, and I'm just like ads started playing, and I was like, oh God, like I remember the days when this used to be free. And maybe that's what people will say about Twitch one day. Is like I remember when it used to be free to stream, and it would be sad to see it take that turn, because I do love this platform existing that is so free and open and accessible to everybody, so that you have so many different viewpoints and you have so many different people using it. And I would hate for them to create sort of walls in which and seeing that kind of pay to play thing like that, that's the start of that. And that's sad to me. It's not only that, which is good, but it is a little bit concerning.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, while 2020 was a great year for content creators, content consumers had a harder time. Movie theaters had it the hardest, and in the entertainment industry, as gathered and poorly ventilated movie theaters became more and more dangerous. Few tried to release movies, but the box office numbers were grim to say the least. This put a ton of projects on indefinite hold, and new content became surprisingly scarce. And this led to the legendary decision by HBO Max to release a majority of its 2021 lineup on HBO Max for a limited time, as well as in theaters. With the consequences of this decision impacting the movie lineup far beyond the perceived end of the pandemic, do we still feel like HBO made the right call here, Brahman? I know we've talked about this so much, but again,
I think it was a responsible. Oh wow, look at me now. Oh,
all right.
I think. Hi, I'm back. I think the response. I think I made the responsible call by not encouraging people to go to movie theaters. And uh, it's interesting that you point that out too, the like poorly ventilated thing, when you poorly ventilated theaters where you're sitting all together. And then in my head, I just thought of like an airplane and then like rigging movie theaters to be like airplanes. And so like, oh, that's an idea. That might be what movie theaters do next. Maybe they're all just Or like those, where you go to those cannabis smoking lounges where they have those huge vents that like suck it all out. Oh wait, you guys don't live in LA.
I don't live in LA. No.
Um,
Still
but yeah,
illegal here in Virginia.
Wah,
I got
wah.
sidetracked, but I think I think they made the right call. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, no, I mean, like, definitely, I enjoy watching movies directly on my couch, so I'm always going to support them coming straight to me rather than me having to go to them. But I don't want theaters to die. That's my only caveat. Like, I enjoy streaming some movies at home, right? And I like the ability. I like this new idea of maybe there could be a dual world where we're doing both, where, movies are premiering in theaters and, at the house at the same time, kind of a thing. And so I really do like that, and I hope that continues to roll out. I think HBO Max had to do what it needed to do, which is essentially say like, "Hey, we're dropping all of this content on here, so come subscribe, baby." Like they had to pump up those subscriber numbers because HBO needed the cash money, and so like I think it was a smooth business move. Now, is it something that AMC supports? No, no, of course not. And that's why, like Nolan, AMC, like all these people are coming out and they're like, saying they don't really support the move, and that's because, and we talked about this before. The current system isn't set up to like benefit them from streaming, right? So if they change the system and it benefits everybody from streaming, similar to how like I'm assuming music's done over the years, then I think it was a great move. I think HBO just going ahead and ripped the band-aid off where others are still trying to keep it on.
Yeah. No, I agree completely. I think there's a lot of there are pros and cons to it. I mean, I think that there is ways to look at it as a consumer, that could be just pros, but when you look at the grand scheme of things, and especially taking in perspective from people who actually work in the industry, you get a better picture of it. So overall, I think it's the right call for the time. We'll see how that looks going forward, and we'll see the consequences of it going forward. But for right now, if I have to predict the weather, I think it's the right call. But I feel like everybody adjusted to the lack of content differently. Some revisited old series, some ventured into new ones. Some people finally got caught up on series that they always planned to get to, and some some just indulged in whatever Netflix had to give them. Because of this series like Avatar: The Last Airbender and its sequel series Legend of Korra got a new life. We also saw series like Tiger King get this, completely kind of buzzworthy, sensationalized, fan base. How did you adjust to the lack of content, Jake?
I mean, honestly, I don't feel like there was a lack of content. That's the biggest thing. Like, it seemed like there was always something to watch, something to play. There was a lot of games this year that were pretty good. And I know we're going to go into that, definitely in our top end, but like, there was a lot of good games and a lot of good shows and a few good movies. Not many good movies. I'm going to, like, I'll pump the brake on that one. There was some okay movies, but like overall, 2020 was a pretty solid year for video games. There was some pretty great games. And as a gamer, that was just, that's the main kind of content that I take in overall anyway.
Yeah.
And then shows. There was a lot of really good shows. It's weird. Two of my favorite things, and I mean, dude, I know like it's the 30-year-old man child, but animation and video games really crushed it during the pandemic. And that's two of my favorite things. I love animated shows and I love fucking video games. And so it's like neither one of those really hit a lack. As a matter of fact, I believe they hit their stride during the pandemic. People can voice act from home. Animation is something that a lot of people can do from home. And so there was a lot of animated series that just kind of kept chugging along, right? And a lot of new ones that came out too. And also, like you said, I'm just like everybody else. That I definitely had a backlog of TV and movies that I had to go back and watch that I had not got a chance to see yet. And so, I really, how did I adjust to the lack of the lack of content? I didn't have to. I didn't feel like there was really that much of a lack of content, really.
For
Pretty
me,
heavy year.
I did go back and start a checklist of different stuff that I wanted to go back and see. And then some stuff I went like a couple of ways through and I go, oh, I don't like this. And I changed to something different, and like, finally was able to give you enough of a review and indulge enough of that content to decide I don't like it. Which I think is a powerful thing. I think other series, like I never got to see Legend of Korra. I never got to see the end of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I love that series now. I think it is probably one of the greatest animated series of all time out there. I think that the storyline is great. You talk about some of the best character development in all of animation. I think there's not a character in either of those series that you can't say has, substantial character development, even some of the minor characters. And so I got to indulge in that content because I had a lot more time on my hands. So that's for me how I did. I went back through my checklist. What about you, Brahman?
List. I do not think that there may have been a lack of content, but for me, there was definitely not a lack of free time because I've been a lot busier during this than I was before. So I'm happy. I did let Netflix feed me a bit, like a lot of the Netflix originals or new things that flash up because they're there and they're being advertised. I've been watching a lot of those things, and I do, like I said, I have Mandalorian on my checklist now, and I think that's going to be the next thing that I try to dive into. But deep well, it is to dive. So
Highly suggested.
Get caught up.
Highly suggested. Still a great show.
Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. The HBO Max decision did kind of explode into an already volatile situation. Watching the entertainment industry attempt to create amidst this pandemic has been a spectacle nonetheless. From COVID test expenses to distressing over the most recent positive test result from certain celebrities to listening to Tom Cruise's latest rant, filmmakers are frustrated. Is the outrage justified, Brahman?
I think I'm kind of on the fence. I think it's partially justified because there are a lot of people within the industry who are working really hard and who are taking a ton of precautions and kind of like not feeling like your work is being like given the stage that you're expecting it to. But I think that everyone just needs to adjust their expectations and just reframe what they view as their platform, like adjusting to the world of streaming or creating new uh, innovative ways to watch things. Like I was just hearing about a film festival that's being done at a drive-in, and I'm like, that is so cool. Like that is a way to keep this going, but in a safe manner, and to adjust instead of just sitting around complaining about how, oh, it's not how it used to be. Well, of course it's not. The whole world isn't. And we have
100%.
to like work together. Mhm.
Is the outrage justified?
I mean, like, I definitely think that some of the outrage is justified whenever you're kind of like Bronwyn was even saying, some people are working really hard and other people may not be taking it as serious. And so, like, because I mean, Tom Cruise's whole rant, I know there was some PR stuff behind it where people said, it was whatever. But like at the end of the day, it's not like the dude was wrong. He was pretty much just saying, like, hey, this is people's livelihoods. And if you two don't stand 6 feet apart, these people don't get fucking paid today. And so it's just one of those things where, like, dude, stand 6 feet apart so we can all get paid so they can feed their families. That's pretty much what Tom Cruise was saying. And I don't think that's too crazy, like, and so, but overall, like, I think Bronwyn really nailed it with saying that the people got to adjust. There used to be a time when people thought the television, someone doing television was like, oh no, they made the move down, to television, right? Like there used to be this whole like, yeah, you moved up to movies and you moved down to TV, right? That's not the case. Like I really think like, a lot of shows like Breaking Bad and even, some of the stuff before then really kind of like changed the game and started to show TV as this whole different medium that could tell a story the way a movie could never. And so I think people really need to realize that with streaming, binging, especially shows and stuff like that, it's still relatively new. And so I think some directors like your Nolans and stuff like that that are totally like against, people watching stuff in their homes, they need to realize I got a 70-inch in here. We got surround sound. We got, like I'm seeing your movie in a pretty, it's OLED, baby. Like I'm watching your shit like pretty clear. And so like you got to understand that, people have upped their games with their home entertainment as well. And that streaming isn't necessarily like the worst way to watch a film anymore.
Right, but I think Nolan's concern is more the metric that he loses with that is the fact that he doesn't get box office numbers with that.
Yeah, no, and I get that part of it.
He doesn't get those results with that. And then
Less than that.
There's still ways to measure it, and I think that, like,
Yeah.
oh, got this many views. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, we're still able to compare the success of Soul versus Wonder Woman and how those movies were received. So I think that those factors exist out there. But you know, to go to your decision, I mean, that's not the only real thing that we looked at when it looked at TV was just the delivery of the medium, but the media itself. And COVID not being the only influencing factor in that media. I mean, the Black Lives Matter protests in the summer brought a lot of issues. But one of those issues happened to be our media. Very rarely, I can't really think of ever, and there's a case where a show has been canceled because of what the show is about and what the show uplifts. Like, I can't think of any other time when it was just like, this show gets dropped right here, because of what they represent and who they are uplifting. And I, for one, 100% agree and support the cancellation of cops and propaganda shows like them. But to me, like, how significant is it that they canceled series like Cops for the reasons that they did, Jake?
Yeah, I think like Cops and like Campus PD and those kind of shows or whatever, like, you know, they were, Live PD, they were all used in clearly, like, you know, it's been kind of basically proven they were propaganda, right? Like, where basically like cities, just to be clear, cities who would have like negative PR because, say, some police shot an innocent person, you know, right, which happens a lot. You know, they would basically like bring in Live PD or Cops to do an episode. They would tag along with some hokey guy that, you know, like somebody that's like, you know, an all shucks style cop, right? One of the good ones, if you will. And then, you know, they would see him like do some normal traffic shit, or maybe hunt down somebody who clearly needed to be arrested, right? You know, like, and so like they would use it to kind of like make that force look better. I think, like, you know, there was a good time for us to like examine our media and say, like, you know, shit like that's got to go, right? And so I'm glad we got them out. Now the double edge of that is that, like, you know, buddy cop's still a good trope in my opinion. I liked Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and I'm gonna really miss Brooklyn Nine-Nine, right? And so like it's one of those where like it definitely sucks that it's all like going that way. But then, like, you know, I don't know, man. Like, I would honestly, before we cancel Cops, could we just like maybe pass harder laws against police brutality? Like, I think a lot of shit got done that didn't really need to get done. You know what I mean? But that's like a whole nother topic for another day.
That's the topics that the politicians have to cover. For us on Geek Life, though, I think that seeing a series getting canceled just simply because of what they're uplifting shows a new way that we look at media, a new way that we look at cancel culture. Because this is one that, I mean, say what you want about cancel culture, but I'm fucking pro cancel culture here. And I think that this decision of doing that not only resonated with me as like, hey, what are these shows uplifting? But like shows like Gotham, okay? Gotham is a buddy cop show based in the Batman universe, and I happen to like it a lot because it do a lot with the Batman universe stuff. But I also did root for Jim Gordon, and I also started to look at, well, what is Jim Gordon as a character? I wouldn't have had that thought process had it not been for the events that happened in 2020. Had it not been for the Black Lives Matter protests, had it not been for cops being canceled because of it. So while it may be an insignificant thing, it did cause a significant enough reaction for me to reevaluate where my influences go. And I think that says something.
No, I mean, every change is important, definitely. I just definitely, like, you know, like Kevin said, or Todd Lee also said, we need police reform and for the cops to stop killing us. Okay, we got it. We'll cancel cops. You know, or we'll change. We're taking Uncle Ben off of this rice. You know what I mean? And it's just like, come on, like, you know, okay,
get your mama out of there. Like,
like, okay, cool, but can we do something about the actual brutality, please? Like, you know.
So yeah, and I think that canceling and like letting sort of the opinion of we don't like what this is saying, we are going to cancel it. Like in this instant, yeah, it's a good thing. I don't like what they're saying, but I do get scared when that sort of control, or like it's not really censorship, I guess, in this instance, but just like having such control over media in that way. Like it treads like a dangerous line of, oh, we don't like what you have to say, you're gone. oh, we don't like your opinion, you're not, this show's not anymore. But yeah,
I can see that because then like whereas like like people with animal like animal rights activists or something like that, what happens like do we eventually lose all the Nat Geo shows about hunting, right? Like like I don't think that's necessarily as far as it'll go, but I get what you're saying on the fact that like it could eventually be to where like mobs control what we get to see on television. I don't think that's necessarily what happened here. I think cops had already been on a rocky road where a lot of people had said like, hey, this is kind of like propaganda in a way. But like I definitely could see where everything kind of, but the bar always changes, right? Like everything's always changing, and so it's just one of those where like it's interesting that I did not see us losing cops in 2020. I will say that was a surprise.
To me, to give that power back to the people is a good thing. I think that is where that should lie in those instances when it crosses a line like what cops crossed, where it's promoting something that is actively harming a community, and promoting something that, I mean, in all personality, like in all personally, like that shit disturbs me, seeing the cops put it on a pedestal at this point in time, after all that we've seen, after all the events of 2020. And so I think this is a good example of the public getting to that point all at once, and that bubbling over to a point where it seemed very, very clear, versus kind of a mob mentality kind of thing, where something is going out of hand. So I think that right now, as it stands, that power being there is a good thing. Now, with that said, it is also hard to go back and look at all the positives. They canceled cops in 2020 when literally, like we saw a shitstorm at the fucking Capitol where the cops were fucking letting people in through the gates and not doing shit while they had fucking tear gassed them weeks before so that the fucking president could hold up a Bible. Like there's obviously a lot of work to be done on this issue, not to not to understand. That is absolutely understating it, but
divisive question though, what about Captain Marvel being military propaganda, and how much US military propaganda is in films and movies in general? Like the only reason they let Captain Marvel, that movie, and them like use the jets and use like military stuff, and the only reason, if you see a tank in a movie, it's because the US military approved the use of that tank usually, and then also got to see the script and fit in some cool lines about how dope it is to be in the fucking army. And I'm not against it, but I'm just saying like it's kind of like on the same line in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you could extend it out to War Machine. You could extend that out to even Green Lantern being a military officer as well. You could extend that to Captain America, and
Cap.
and I think that those conversations, to be honest, Jake, how do you answer that? I think those conversations should be welcomed. I think those conversations should be had.
Oh yeah.
And we should actually examine whether or not. And I've fucking love Captain America. I wrote a 25-page paper about Captain America when I was in high school, about how he is a thermometer of American culture and not just some nationalistic icon. And I could go through all the reasons of that, and I could talk to you about all those things. But if I'm going to go back and look at it as, well, I mean, I guess it's just straight propaganda, military propaganda at this point, and examine whether or not that's healthy with it as relationship with other people throughout the world. I think those are healthy conversations to have, and those should be had. And if I come up the other end of it and I fucking hate Captain America, then I'm gonna have some stuff I have to fucking deal with that.
Yeah,
I think that's a reflection. I think that you should, the characters that you adore and uplift and praise should go through that meat grinder, should go through the, why am I uplifting these people? You shouldn't just blindly like somebody because, oh, they blow things up and that looks cool. Like, I think that there should be more to it. But that's me. I'm a sentimental person. That's how I think.
I think that's the what you just described is the exact opposite that's happened to the Punisher as a character. People like on the extremes of, certain sides really love the fucking Punisher, but they don't understand what the Punisher even really stood for, right? Like, or what he really did, like in the comics anyway. And so like it's just really it's really interesting basically where we've gotten in our like overall just like You know, like I definitely see the fall of cops being the basically what I got with that, you know, Captain Marvel question is I kind of see cops almost being the launch pad of this overarching conversation, which is that like, are we tired of like just bullshit propaganda being in our movies and television? Why can't we just have something for entertainment? You know, like why is it got to be selling me something all the time?
I mean,
But then
when you look at the plot of Top Gun, it's just straight military propaganda, and you kind of know at the beginning, but you get to get in 2020 hindsight, it has a different flavor of ugh, in my opinion. You know, so I think that was.
No, I was a little taken back whenever I was playing Cyberpunk and like half of the missions you're just working for the Night City Police Department, like busting crimes, and I was like, am I a cop? Is this game about being a cop right now?
Right. What about
you make a ton of money being a cop in Cyberpunk, which is so bizarre to me that like anyway.
that is really, really bizarre. Brahman, what about you? Is there anything that 2020 hindsight has brought to light as far as, you know, previously dismissed problematic content? As how significant was the cops cancellation?
I never watched Cops, but I understand the statement it was making. So yeah, I do think it's pretty significant and like putting our foot down and saying, we've had enough. We've had enough of this.
And the chat said that patriotism hit differently in 2020. And yes, indeed, it does. Whew, it hit different for sure.
When I used to see a man draped in the United States flag with his face painted as the flag, I just assumed we were at a football game, right? Not a riot.
You know what I mean? Patriots game, right?
Yeah, I kind of assume is usually at like, you know, that or a Bama game. You'd be surprised.
I think it was a goddamn insurrection. Like, fuck.
Did not know it was terrorist activity.
No, for real. All right, well, moving on to the top Zen. 2020 was a dumpster fire for sure and will likely forever be immortalized as such. But despite being worse than any other year on record, there are some silver linings throughout the apocalyptic year. As we mentioned earlier, some content boomed while other industries busted big time. 2020 was a high-risk, high-reward year. And while we have had plenty of time discussing the cons, we wanted to take some time to talk about the pros. From sequel seasons that don't suck to finding out which of your friends is the best liar, there have been a few ways that we've been able to make it through the 2020 nightmare. With movie theaters closing their doors, there were only a few cinematic ventures to even be released this year, and even fewer of them were actually good. Luckily for number 10 on the countdown, it happened to be one of those good ones. And number 10 on the countdown, you got a chance to see it, Jake. COVID free, I believe, in your car, right?
Yeah. No, total drive-in experience.
Like a good old, you know, Biden rallier.
Exactly.
Did you alter the good parts of the movie? Is that like,
no, oh my God, somebody didn't turn off their lights behind us and I wanted to get out and literally Trump supporter this person, which is short for beat 'em. Anyway, number 10 on our countdown of good things that came out in 2020 is Christopher Nolan's banger Tenet. You know, after a career spent exploring the concepts of time, director Christopher Nolan finally tackles the subject head on in Tenet, a film not just interested in timelines, but directly focused on them. It's a classic Nolan film in every sense of the way, packed tight with lofty ideas, impeccable set pieces, and pacey plotting, to the point of where it's practically a comfort watch rather than exciting new ground. But in a world where blockbuster cinema is dominated by franchises and sequels, the film serves as an accomplished demonstration of the pleasures of unconnected and non-serialized original storytelling. And in the year 2020, when cinema was struggling through arguably its most difficult time in its entire history, Tenet works as a fantastic reminder of what blockbuster filmmaking can really aspire to be. And that's why it's the best experience in a huge dark room. Unfortunately, I only got to see it in a drive-in, but it was still a pretty good movie. I was stoked to see it again at home, and I just really haven't had the time or the chance to rewatch it yet. But this is definitely one of those classic Nolan films that could require 2 or 3 watches to really get what's happening, right? And so, anyway, have either of you guys got a chance to check out Nolan's banger that came out earlier this year?
I haven't, and I'm a big Christopher Nolan fan as far as his movies go. I've become less of a fan of him after hearing him moan and complain about the HBO Max decision. But nevertheless, I do want to take a chance to check out this because I know that intellectually and creatively, his movies are absolutely amazing, and I'm excited to see it.
If you enjoyed Inception, you will enjoy Tenet. Like, there's no like, it's just one of those where like, and they're not the same, right? Like, don't get me wrong. Like, they're definitely like, there's still elements because it's Christopher Nolan, but they're not the same film. But they're both very good movies. Like Tenet, if Tenet would have came out any other year, we would still be talking about how well it did. I believe that, and so
I want to see it. I'll probably, much to his chagrin, be streaming it. So.
Well, Tenet was amazing, but it doesn't make as well as number 9 did on our countdown, which is Lovecraft Country. Tell us why Lovecraft Country makes number 9 on the countdown, Bronwyn.
HBO's terrific, terrifying, and topical adaptation of Matt Ruff's novel From Underground's Misha Green told the tumultuous tale of Army vet Atticus Tick Freeman, who, when returning back home to 1950s Jim Crow America, discovers that his family lineage connects to a forbidden magic and sorcery previously denied to African Americans. From there, Lovecraft Country rocketed us into a raucous adventure that touched on everything from time travel to body horror to the infinite possibilities of the multiverse. As Tick, Letty, and their family waged war against societal demons like racism, they also fought back against insurmountable odds in a fight for supernatural supremacy. This is just so topical right now, and I've started it. I'm loving it, and I know you guys have been watching it too, religiously as soon as it would come out. So what are your thoughts? How do you think that this has improved your 2020?
This was one of the series that I was binging on like a weekly basis. It was my kind of wind down actually after Geek Life kind of show. And just week by week, I think that the acting in it itself is absolutely amazing. The writing in itself is absolutely amazing. The animation, the style, and the cinematography in itself is absolutely amazing. And I think that those are 3 separate entities that could be, both appreciated all on their own, but they really do bring it out together. I hate to be the person that's like the absolute cheerleader for content, but this is one that I couldn't say good enough things about. I don't know about you, Jake.
No, I completely agree. Like you said, I hate to be the cheerleader for it, but there's a reason why it made our very short list of good things that came out in 2020. It was probably one of the best television shows of 2020. Like you said, the actors were phenomenal. I'm excited for season 2. And the message was very strong during a time when we're essentially going through a second Civil Rights Act, right? And so, overall, if you haven't got a chance to check out Lovecraft Country, this guy gives it 2 thumbs up. And so definitely do. It's one of the best shows of 2020, hands down.
Hands down. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much more you could say about Lovecraft Country, but it was absolutely fantastic, and glad to see it make this countdown. But number 8 on our countdown is one that we actually talked about previously in this show because it's got a lot of soul. That's right, it is soul. Christmas 2020 was a challenging one. Many of us couldn't go home, see our family, but luckily, many of us were able to come together and virtually talk shit about how bad Wonder Woman 84 was. And then after we were done, we flipped over to Disney Plus because, hey, didn't they come out with an animated flick around Christmas too? And yes, they did. And the low expectations made this film shine all the brighter. This jazz-inspired film and unique look on the afterlife was, a very touching, very telling. It was an incredibly pleasant surprise. And as well as giving representation to people of color in a Pixar film, which hasn't really been done, at least very often before. I think outside of like Frozone, right? Like that's the only thing I could think of. So overall, Soul was an incredibly pleasant surprise. And yes, like any good Pixar movie, it will make you cry. So it gets 4 giant sobbing tear jerkers out of 5 for me, and makes number 8 on this countdown. So definitely something that you should check out for some good content and some good things that came out of 2020. Did you guys, everybody here got a chance to check out Soul?
Yeah.
Would you say that my assumption of it is accurate, Jake?
Well, I know we talked about it a little earlier, but yeah, no, I mean, I'm honestly putting it on up there with almost with Coco. I loved Coco, and I thought Soul was, obviously not as musical of a movie, but still with some, well, actually, no, yeah, with a good bit of music because it was still jazz, right? And so, like, there were some parts that I wish they would have went into more, but overall, great characters, beautiful development. The story was, it was, awesome, and I think we talked about it a little bit before the stream. It felt more, the overall story of Soul felt very adult, and so like it was one of those where like it was a pleasant surprise at the end of the year, and that's why I made the list. Like you said, it was definitely like a kind of like a surprise that it came out, because this movie was originally slated for theaters, and Disney's been kind of a stickler so far. Like they've been kind of like going back and forth on like, we're gonna push this in theaters, or we're gonna not, we're gonna make it $20 on our service. And like like I'm really glad this didn't get the fucking Mulan treatment. Like, I'm really happy I didn't have to pay $20 to see Soul, because I wouldn't have watched it, right? Or at least yet, not saying I'm a complete cheapskate, but come on, like there's not many Pixar movies I'm renting for $20 to watch at the house. I'm going to wait until I could watch it for free. But I'm very, happy this one came out for free. We watched it all together, the family, on Christmas. And I think everybody really enjoyed the overall, like, message that it was trying to tell. And so very adult Pixar movie.
I really enjoyed it, and I love just how they brought up these really advanced, complex sort of concepts, but like in a fun way to children, which I think is really cool to have kids start thinking about these like metaphysical aspects of life. And I like that a lot. I love the score. Oh my gosh, the music was amazing. A lot of it was composed by Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails, which I thought was pretty cool. Yeah. And
what?
yeah.
Trent Reznor?
Uh-huh.
Like you can have it all, like Empire Dirt, Trent Reznor? Like, whoa, that's impressive.
Yeah. And I loved how it kind of switched. Like the music was so cool because it did have all these like obviously the jazz elements, but then it would get super spaced out and trippy and I'm all about that stuff. So
yeah, the main antagonist was a 4th dimensional creature.
Yeah.
Like, that was trippy as hell.
Yeah, those were pretty interesting. Its overall concept of death was really interesting, and the reincarnation kind of in a way, and just like, yeah, no, it was a great movie.
Yeah,
absolutely fantastic.
Just enjoying life. It's really good.
Well, we've been talking about a lot of video content, content willing to be consumed, but video games ruled 2020. And we know this to be true, especially number 7 on our countdown. Number 7, Jake, is
Cyberpunk 2077, but for PC only. And that's a huge caveat. Let me say that if you're listening to this, Cyberpunk 2077 for PC is the one that is on this countdown. I have not played it on console. I've only played it on my PC, so I don't know. But I have seen the videos, I have seen the memes, I have seen, like just screenshots and everything. And God help everyone who's playing this thing on a last gen console. It looks awful, right? But I have a confession to make, which is that I have played over 40 hours this year of Cyberpunk. I did 30 hours roughly in 2020. And so we've definitely put some time in on this game. It's been draped in controversy since its launch, with screenshots and recordings of glitches and bugs on consoles that have been completely bonkers. Thousands of players have even requested refunds. Sony got so many requests for refunds, they even pulled it from the store. And so, but I'm not one of them. I've been grinding my way through Night City almost daily until my PC decided to die earlier this week. Now, if that was Cyberpunk's fault, it's still yet to be seen. It could have been the fact that my power source wasn't ready for a 3070, but whatever, we'll also see about that. While I can't deny that this game has had issues, bugs, glitches, all the full, spectrum of issues on a PC, that's strong enough to play it, this game's beautiful. And the story's great. I've really enjoyed the story. I've enjoyed playing a game with Keanu Reeves in it. You know, having Johnny Silverhand be with you essentially throughout the majority of this game and its story has been super enjoyable. The conversations you have with Johnny after, and I don't want to like give out too many spoilers, but essentially after Johnny Silverhand is in you, and you know you see him through like essentially you see little visions of him throughout the game. It's very reminiscent of Joker, and I believe what was in Gotham, was it Gotham Knight or Gotham City? Arkham Knight. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's very reminiscent of Joker in that game, where after you get hit with the gas and everything, throughout the rest of it, he's just popping up as kind of like this little side character with some bullshit to say to you, right? But the only difference is in Cyberpunk, you can either tell Johnny to fuck off, or you can talk to Johnny and continue to go into the madness that is Johnny Silverhand. And so I really enjoyed this game, man. Keanu's been great. A lot of people are like, saying Keanu was the worst part of it. I'm like, dude, come on, guys. I bought this for Keanu. You're wonderful. And so it's one of the best games I played in 2020, hands down. And it came out right there at the tail end of it. CD Projekt Red is still bae to me. I think it will be for a long time. I was a huge Witcher fan. And so long story short, I essentially was ready to pull out some mantis blades and fight people if we couldn't put Cyberpunk on this list, but it came out at number 7.
Yeah, it's and I think it's only number 7 because of its record with the console gen. I mean, you can't talk about Cyberpunk's launch in 2020 without the fact that there's a bunch of people out there that can't play it right now.
Yeah, can't even play it.
And the fact that they issued the largest, I mean, like for the first time ever I've ever seen a video game company say, hey, we're going to issue refunds for this game because it's not as good as we promised it to be. I mean, most video game developers were like, we'll send an update. And they're like, it's still bad. Update it again. And then it's still...
I think people forgot about Skyrim.
Well, just update it,
I really think people forgot about Skyrim. Like
the perfect game ever.
Well, okay, yeah, but if you played it at launch on a PlayStation 3, you got fucked a lot. The bugs were awful. Not only was it super glitchy, it was almost unplayable at times if your save got up a certain amount. If your save file got big enough on your PlayStation 3, and I remember this because I was a huge Skyrim fan, played many hours of Skyrim, you couldn't even play it. There was a time where I had to wait for a patch to play my fucking game because they essentially had made it to where if your save file got so big, it would load and crash. And so I think people this game was so highly anticipated that when it came out and flopped, it was much easier to kick it. You know what I mean? Whereas with Skyrim, a lot of people, I think, have forgotten about what was that essential debacle of a launch as well. And so we've had buggy games come out before. I don't know why we all got entitled all of a sudden. Buggy games come out all the time. Like, there's been tons of AAA titles that are unplayable. Mass Effect was god awful too when it came out. But then, after they fixed the bugs, it was a good game.
Yeah, for real. What are your thoughts on CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk 2077 making number 7 on our countdown, Bronwyn? Adding more of the boot for its past misgivings.
It's deserved, and I am excited to play it, but I was never going to be one of the first people to buy this game because we've been talking a lot about how it's been rushed, so I knew there'd be these glitches. I also like to, just like wait a little bit. Maybe it'll get cheaper, maybe it'll be more playable, and at that point, I'm sure I will love this game when I play it. So I'm still excited. I'm still on their team, just a farther away team.
Yeah. Well, speaking of team, nothing that's team related, number 6 in our countdown is Fall Guys, the completely solo player game that you play by yourself. But anyways, Brahma, tell us why Fall Guys makes the countdown.
Well, this was a huge surprise this year. It came out of nowhere and took the internet by storm. The cute little bean battle royale game won everybody's heart during a pandemic where battle royales were all the rage. Not only was this one the most creative battle royale game of the year, it was and still is an insanely fun and cute game to play. Plus, with an upcoming Doom collaboration that we talked about earlier, it's easy to see why Fall Guys is going to stay strong in 2021.
Jake, how do you feel
Take
about
away,
Fall Guys?
Jake.
How do you feel about Fall Guys making number 6 in our countdown, our resident Fall Guys streamer?
No, definitely one of the funnest games I played in 2020. I think it's interesting to see how they're trying to keep the hype going into 2021 with some of these new collabos and stuff like that or whatever. But this was I streamed this game a few times. My people who watched the stream towards the end of the year actually got a chance to see me win my one and only crown. And so snatching that crown live on stream is probably, honestly, it's one of my top 10 memories. So like it'll forever be etched because of just like how fucking fun that was. And so a super competitive game, also super, cute and everything all together. And like Bronwyn said, it really was a huge surprise. Honestly, when I first booted it up and played it, I was really pleasantly surprised at how fun this game was. And so one of the best things to come out of 2020 for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Fall Guys is a lot of fun. Other than the terrible drinking game that I decided to make out of it and that awful hangover that I got from it, I still get sick from playing Fall Guys now. I need to fix that. Hopefully going forward, I can just have some good experiences playing Fall Guys and not.
Next time you play it, you just got to get even drunker. No. Hair of the
dog. Well, speaking of hair of the dog, or at least the dog-shaped villager, for number 5 in our countdown is Animal Crossing. Why does Animal Crossing make our countdown, Jake?
Because there would probably be a ride if it didn't. It's one of the greatest things that come out of 2020 easily was Animal Crossing. New Horizon is a cute, often clever, totally unique social game, but it can also be a great solitary one as well, with plenty of animal friends to keep you company. Life is good in whatever you want to call your island. Almost 1 year in, those that stuck with Animal Crossing New Horizon have not only spent months collecting, decorating, and hosting, but also watching the seasons change along with new updates and DLC like the holiday celebrations. I personally fell off of Animal Crossing for a little bit here. Well after putting 80 plus hours into this game during the months of March and April. After it first came out, I think I played this every day. It was almost like a part of my daily routine. I would wake up, brush my teeth, do some work stuff. Even during that work stuff, I'd be playing some Animal Crossing because we were working from home, and so it was one of those things where this game was constantly getting played. My Switch was being charged more than it's ever been charged, I believe, during the months when I was just grinding on Animal Crossing. And it's kept a great audience. And like you said earlier, whenever we were talking about the look back at 2020, it was a big way that people connected. A lot of people came and visited each other's islands. There was graduations held on islands, proposals, weddings, everything. And so Animal Crossing is a big reason why a lot of people made it through 2020, I believe. It was a great, mental health booster when you needed it. And I really thank Nintendo for dropping this bad boy right around the time the pandemic made us all get locked into our homes. And so with the world on fire, it might be time for me to go back and visit my villagers and see how they've been holding up without me. I wonder if there was an attack on our capital while I was away. I'm gonna go back and Tom Nook's gonna be locked in the back room holy shit, Jake, where have you been?
Yeah. It's too late for you, Jake. They've already executed the 24th Amendment.
The fascists got in.
Animal Crossing was huge during the beginning of the pandemic for me too. I mean, I was living alone and spent a lot of time by myself. So it was a great way to be able to interact with people. And I put so much time and so much fun into that game. But I'm telling you, beware when you go back to your island, because it was huge for me in the beginning, and then I stopped playing. And then a couple of weeks ago, I wanted to just, check in, see how everyone was doing on my island, show one of my friends the game for the first time. And there's so many weeds and there's so many cockroaches in my home. And I'm just it's just walking around trying to be oh, and this is my garden. And then I'm just ripping weeds out of the ground and just getting right back into the game, shaking all the trees, all this money everywhere. So it's kind of stressful going back into it.
Because I was a 5-star island guy. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I was just saying I was a 5-star island guy. So my shit was so clean. I had it looking so pretty. And so I know if I went back right now, I would be no.
No, I mean, I get it. I personally don't have Animal Crossing because I already have this kind of that level of anxiety in real life about like my house as it is. And I don't know why anybody wants to simulate those things in a video game, but when you put it in like when you put capitalism in cutesy little animal form, people just go fucking nuts over it. So, and Animal Crossing was a huge, absolutely huge success this year. I mean, I know.
Zero interest.
Mm,
And you get to live in the house while you pay it off. He's one of the greatest landlords ever. If capitalism worked the way Tom Nook worked, I'd be for it. It's not bad.
Yeah. You're pro Tom Nook's version of capitalism.
He's a good guy.
Is he?
Dude, who gives you a $1 billion? Who gives you a $1 billion Bell loan essentially and says, you know what, but you just pay it back at cost and at your own time. You know what I mean? If that was any other bank, you would get at least a 25% interest on that bad boy, at least.
Yeah. Well,
and you'd have to pay it back in 6 years.
Yeah,
I still haven't paid Tom Nook back for my last loan. I know he looks at me crazy when I'm buying crazy shit like crowns and everything, but you know,
and like if you didn't, all you'd have to do is set your clock back on your Switch and you're fine. So it's much less consequential than an actual loan because you can't just set the
time
clock
travels
back.
for cheaters. I don't time travels for cheaters.
And then I'm a cheater.
Yeah. And then are you calling Doctor Who a cheater?
Yeah.
You calling the Doctor a cheater?
Time travel in Animal Crossing is for cheaters. In real life, it's just for, you know.
Well, are you calling the Animal Crossing Doctor a cheater? Anyways, we'll keep on moving. We got plenty more of a countdown to get to. Number 4 in the countdown was one that surprised all of us. Borat 2 was a huge surprise. 2020 was full of surprises, and one of them was the secret filming of Borat 2. Early on in the pandemic, Sacha Baron Cohen made headlines by pissing off rednecks at a Trump rally. Not out of the ordinary for Cohen. This is the same guy that has, I don't know if you guys have seen his show on Showtime, but there was one time where he took Roy Moore on there and he said, this is a pedophile detector. I'm just going to see if it works. And like every single time I had scanned Roy Moore, it started beeping. It was fucking great. But anyways, Sacha Baron Cohen is known for pissing off Republicans. But flash forward to October, and all of a sudden, Cohen has finished filming Borat, pitches it to Amazon to meet his goal of trying to get this movie out and released to the public before the November election. And sure enough, on October 23rd, Cohen meets that goal and releases the movie just before the election. And the movie was 1, fucking hilarious. 2, featured major politicians, including Rudy Giuliani and Mike Pence. 3, did a great way, in the most Sacha Baron Cohen-esque way, of showing what America is going through right now, the level of ignorance that people are consumed with right now. I mean, like, if you sit back and look at the examples that Sacha Baron Cohen pointed out there, one of my favorites is the one where they go to the abortion clinic, and the situation that the guy at the abortion clinic thinks that this person is coming to him with is that he is her father and he impregnated her and she wants to get rid of it and have an abortion, and he won't fucking pull the trigger for her. Yes, it's funny the way they do it. It's hilarious the way they do it, but that's what he's showcasing. He showcased that, if you ask somebody to, they will write anti-Semitic rhetoric on a cake for you. The same people that wouldn't, I don't know if it's the same baker, but this is the same country that refused to bake cakes for a gay couple. I mean, I'm not trying to make a serious point of a funny movie, but I am trying to make a serious point of a funny movie. Sacha Baron Cohen had a outstanding, powerful message with this movie, and it was all wrapped up in hilarious messaging that made it just so entertaining that Rudy Giuliani couldn't stop tucking his shirt in the entire time. So what do you guys think about Borat 2? Was it as big of a highlight of your 2020 as it was mine, Bronwyn?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that this was so clever and so on the nose, and watching it too, especially right before, watching it right before the election was like he did what he set out to do with getting that message out there. And I thought that it was extremely clever too, the way that he was able to make this movie while being so well known and like kind of like playing that into the movie of like being in all these like elaborate costumes, but then also I forget the name of his co-star in the film, but she completely took like she stepped like what?
No, she stole the show. She was great.
She stole the show for this, and to do like what he can do, like oh my gosh, like that was what really impressed me in this. I thought that was amazing.
Jake, what are your thoughts on Borat 2?
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought it was a great movie, and it came out at a great time. And Sacha Baron Cohen is just, he's a phenomenal guy, and at what he does, especially, which is political commentary, essentially, in a completely outrageous way, right? The Eric Andre of political commentary, in a way, right? And so it was a very smart film. The first one had a lot to say too. It's just people, like we all were kind of young when it came out, and so everybody's like, my wife, like, and that's it's like, I mean, there was a lot of commentary there about like how Americans just think poor countries and people, like, that are from them act, you know what I mean? And so like anyway, it was a great movie overall, and I thought it was the timing of it was really solid too. They knew they wanted to come out with it right before the election, and I thought that was genius. And so
they were successful.
Yeah, and did not see a Borat film coming out at the beginning of this year, right? So when 2020, definitely a huge surprise and a great one at that.
Can you imagine how defeated you would have filmed if you would have felt if you'd filmed all of that stuff and you got it out after the election? Like I think that would have been, a bit. Yeah, it would have really kind of.
I don't even know if he would have let it go out because I mean he had a lot of control in this film too, apparently. So
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Mhm.
Well, speaking of sequels that definitely surpassed the predecessors, The Boys season 2 came out, and that makes number 3 on our countdown. Tell us why The Boys season 2 made number 3 on our countdown, Jake.
It was diabolical. But no, The Boys' sinister second season found. I'm not going to do this in Carl's accent the whole time, but found our illustrious anti-heroes not only battling back against the Mighty Seven, but also the newest member of the super gang, a lightning-wielding genocidal Nazi maniac named Stormfront, who seemed to be operating under her own ugly agenda. Which, no spoilers. I guess I should have called her a Nazi. Ugh, sorry. Anyway, continue to maintain a perfect balance between comedy, intrigue, and over-the-top violence. The Boys gave us amazing character development in the form of Anthony Starr's Homelander, Carl Urban's Billy the Butcher, and Erin Morterary's, I'm pretty sure I just murdered her last name, but Erin Starlight, which, all of those guys, and Huey saw a lot of character development in season 2. Obviously, season 1 was Huey's season. Season 2 really was like a Homelander, Butcher, Starlight. Like these guys really started to come into their own as far as like characters within the show, especially Homelander. Holy shit. Whatever they do in season 3 with Homelander is going to be amazing. And speaking of season 3, the show was such a smash hit that Amazon immediately greenlit season 3. And so they're already starting production of it now. And so this thing landed a lot of shocking surprises and had some very emotional scenes as well. And it was a beacon of light, starlight to be exact, in what was pretty much a year of disaster. The Boys season 2 was a great commentary on the dangers of the Uber Patriot, which looking back at like Tuesday or last week, it's very fitting given recent events. If anybody's actually going back and watching The Boys right now, I really it's you should see it in a different light than what you did even before, right? Because it's a commentary on the mega crowd in some aspects, more than one, right? But it's also there's even season 2 towards the end has a little hint of like a little commentary on the Uber left as well and how they have secret agendas too, right? And so it's really one of those where without giving any more spoilers because I'm sure I gave a few in that. It was a great show, and it was a great beacon of hope in 2020, and it looks like a great beacon of hope going forward because Amazon's already greenlit it for future seasons.
Yeah, it's definitely one that I was looking forward to every single week.
Oh yeah,
it was, and it held the mantle that Mando did at a different time period when it was just. I was so excited just to see any content coming out, let alone something that was,
really
very
good.
entertaining. Yeah, and I think The Boys one did a really good job of season 1 at establishing this universe of like these are superheroes, but they're real, and then season 2 building on what that looks like in our modern world, and I think that was really, really amazing to see. How do you feel about The Boys making this high on the countdown, Brahman?
I don't doubt it. It feels like though 2020 has been a lot of me like starting things and not finishing them, because this is another one that I'm halfway through and still need to get through the rest. But it's not because I'm not enthralled in the show. It's just been, life gets crazy and then another cool new thing comes up and then I get into that and then I stop watching that to do something else. So I still think this deserves a spot on the countdown because what I have seen is fucking incredible. I have loved this show since it first came out, and the first season I streamed in like 3 days, I think, something crazy like that. So very worthy of the number 3 spot for the second season of The Boys.
Right. But we're getting down to the final 2, and there's no way that you could talk about a countdown about the good things that happened about 2020 and not talk about the 2-year-old game that is Among Us. Why does Among Us make the countdown in 2020 of best things to come out of 2020, Brahman?
Among Us was not released this year, but it definitely gained its popularity during the pandemic, and I think it's safe to say it's become a staple of 2020. Innersloth released the online multiplayer social deduction game in 2018, but as people remained in their homes with limited ways to interact with each other, Among Us reached record plays and streamings. Because what better ways to stay connected to each other than being at constant risk of sabotage and turning against your crewmates? I've certainly enjoyed this game. It's receives a large platform. I mean, AOC even did a stream of this. How amazing was that? So it's crossing into like the political sphere now. And I've also really enjoyed the times I've been able to spend playing it with you all on the show, on the stream, and with our fellow nerd herd. Has been a great way to, I think, stay social and create new memories. I really liked Dotson, you said earlier, like sort of equating it to like being at a bar, like meeting people at a bar, hanging out with people. I think that's a really good analogy for this and really beautiful thing. Grab a drink, go on your ship, pretend to do some shit while you're really
Really waiting to kill people in the shadows.
yeah. Like I mean, this whole year, I think I've been pretending to do things. Like, sure.
Things I don't really understand that I'm doing. Yeah.
Ron's like, I've been faking tasks all year.
Yeah. My life's been nothing but faking tasks.
I've been faking tasks all year. That's my mantra going forward. I'm just faking tasks.
Right. No,
I'm the imposter.
One of the things that made Among Us was so great was, yes, the pandemic, but also the accessibility level of Among Us. I mean, the fact that Among Us is a game that AOC could jump in and play in front of thousands of people and still, do even remotely successful at, with, obviously her limited amount of free time, shows you just how easy the game is to jump in and play. And even like the fact, I mean, we saw the X, the triangle, and the square added to the wire task, right? As one of the updates, and that's just to help colorblind people so that they can connect those wires even if they're colorblind. So the level of accessibility and the level of the care about accessibility in this game, I think, is unmatched, and I think that should shape how games going forward look at accessibility, in my opinion. Not only that, I mean, the game works a lot like a board game, that you can play with all of your friends. Like it feels like a Monopoly kind of thing. And I think I feel like that's something that was really needed in this pandemic. Don't you think so too, Jake?
Oh, no, I agree. I definitely understand why Among Us hit number 2, even though it didn't really come out in 2020. It really hit its stride in 2020 and was a big way that not just, I think, a lot of people passed time, but even us on this stream. We've had multiple Among Us streams, and so It's a really fun game to play with, 8, 9, 10 other people. And I think it's going to stay strong even, going after the pandemic. But I really think the pandemic helped it hit its stride. It's one of the greatest things to come out of 2020, because without the pandemic and without this past year, Among Us could have died, or we could have not found it until they came out with Among Us 2, because that was the original plan, right? And so and I love the old school like look and feel of Among Us, even though it just came out in like 2018. So definitely like excited for the future of this game and the developer in itself, and I think it was 100% one of the best things to come out of 2020.
I completely agree. I mean, it's a very popular game. Hell, according to Twitch, we were streaming it earlier in this stream. So, it's
even when we're not imposter.
We still have people, even when we're doing the regular show, that come in. Hey, you guys still need one? Oh, sorry, we're not. But it's been a really fun game to play. It's something that you can pop in, pop out of, like for me. I remember at some point during the pandemic, I just went, I'm going to try each time someone says there's an Among Us game available to join in, because I have so much fun doing it. Just try to make sure I can, if I can, not try to, just be like, I'm watching this movie or something like that. But like, nah, let's let it interrupt the movie, because it is one of those ways that we've been able to socialize in 2020 in this pandemic. So
exactly.
Well, none of these on the countdown hold a candle to the #1 shining star on a hill that was the best thing to come out of 2020, and that is The Mandalorian Season 2. The Mandalorian was a Death Star-sized oasis in the desert of content that was 2020. The Mando had big shoes to fill after an incredible Season 1. The first season introduced us to Mando, Baby Yoda, Moff Gideon, Cara Dune, and the great Mandalorian lore. But Kev Farvo doesn't make mistakes, and Season 2 turned up the heat, introducing fan favorites like Bo-Katan, Ahsoka Tano, Bill Burr, and a few more. I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but let's just say green lightsabers. Regardless of the case.
So from the Scarlex pit or whatever.
Yeah, and not to mention other possible Mandalorians showing up in there as well. Again, I don't want to give away too many spoilers, people who haven't been caught up yet, but there's no doubt in my mind that The Mandalorian was the best content that came out this year. I mean, I saw people watching their reactions to the final episode of Mandalorian and literally were crying. And I get why. It was absolutely beautiful. It was something that reunited a lot of people for their childhood. It gave a lot of people just something to really enjoy in a really fucking hard time, to be honest. It gave us something to be crazy about. And because Season 1 came out before the pandemic, when this stuff was just like, there wasn't all this crazy pandemonium going on. It was kind of like a return to normalcy kind of feeling. It didn't feel like, oh, we're back into Season 2 of Mandalorian. I turned on Disney Plus once again, finally again, ever since I turned it off after the last episode of Mandalorian.
To get too heavy, but if you've ever dealt with and this has been, obviously the pandemic's had a lot of stuff, but if you've ever dealt with depression, having something to look forward to every week is a huge win, right? And during the times when, like having a show or something new like that to look forward to, I don't mean like, everything's doom and gloom, but like at the same time, like, if you get into some dark places, as sometimes depression can take you there, having like just even something like Mando to look forward to every week can actually pull you from like, being in a pretty dark area. And so like, that was something I always like every Friday, I would like, no matter how shitty I felt that whole week, I would go Friday evening, I'm going to smoke some weed and watch some Mando, and it's going to be great. It's going to be great. Like this week has been garbage, but Mando's on Friday. So let's get it, baby.
And I feel you on that. I remember vividly as a child, and the thoughts that go through my head with dealing with depression, and with even, to get real, just some thoughts of self-harm. And realizing that the possibility of another Smash Brothers coming out was what was getting me through it. And it sounds fucking stupid and laughable, but it was absolutely the thing I was looking forward to, and seeing what new character was going to be in there. And it's well, I can't jump off this train just yet. I don't know if they're going to throw in Waluigi, and they never do.
They never do. Damn it.
They never do. But the whole prospect of it, for a lot of time, kept the light on. And I think that stuff is important.
Mando definitely helped keep things normal. Like you said, it was like a return to normalcy. It felt nice to have something to look forward to each week that was quality, and something that was like in the Star Wars universe that was quality too. And this season did not pump the brakes at all. It kept it going, and there's a reason why it's number 1 on the countdown. It's probably the greatest thing to ever come out of 2020.
Yeah, it really was. Baby Yoda, Grogu stole our hearts. I remember watching an episode of The Mandalorian with all my family when we were, trying to safely gather for COVID. And looking across the room, and all of us fucking, the people that were watching it, because the nerds are the smart ones in my family, all wearing masks and, trying to, figure out how to get through this crazy holiday. But for 1 second, we were all together watching the same show in the same room. So that that means something in the middle of the pandemic. And I think that Mandalorian was one of the great content pieces that really brought that together. And hands down the best of those. I mean, again, Kevin Farvo doesn't make mistakes. When Kevin Farvo says, I want to make a Christmas movie, it's fucking Elf. When Kevin Farvo says, I want to make a superhero movie, it launches the MCU, and when Kevin Farvo says, I want to make Star Wars, he makes the Mando.
Let the man do what he wants to do, because he's deserved that right now. He's the big dick in Hollywood, in my opinion. Like, let that guy do whatever the fuck he wants to do. I'll watch it.
For real. Brahman, any thoughts on Mandalorian making number 1?
Guys, you have me so excited to watch this show. And I was just thinking, Jake, I'm like, I should put it on my schedule. And I know it's not coming out on a weekly basis, but this will be my Mando day, and I'll watch it episodically like that. That'll be great.
Do it, man. Because you never know. The week can get busy. You may not have the time to just binge, right? But if you could set aside 45 on a Friday, every Friday, there you go. You got it.
I do not have the level of patience to be able to sit there and be like, all right, I'll just watch one episode. If I had the option to binge, I'd binge.
Yeah.
Spiral from there, but
right. I think you should set that goal before you start, but allow yourself the room to fail on that goal. And I'm gonna binge, just go in your heart of hearts. Know that it's okay to binge if you want to. Cheat days encouraged. Exactly. Great shot. Exactly. All right. Well, honorable mentions. You've got Miles Morales, was a fantastic game on the PS4, as well as Ghost of Tsushima.
Yes.
You have Invisible Man, was a fantastic movie, a very, very cool horror movie that came out this year.
Very early on in the year, so I think some people may have forgot about it. That was very early in the pandemic, but straight to DVD, or not straight to DVD, but straight to on demand. And I think it did in some theaters, but very good movie.
It was fantastic. The Good Place wrapped up its final season this year. That was this year as well. Yeah. Schitt's Creek also wrapped up its final season. We also have phenomenal kind of Netflix sensations like The Queen's Gambit and Tiger King that broke out as well. So kudos to all the honorable mentions. Yeah, we're honorable. You've been mentioned, but you didn't make the cut. All right. Anyways, that will wrap it for our show this week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to yet another show. If you like what you see or heard on the show tonight, you can be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. If you've already done all of those things, then tell a friend. Share share the stream on Facebook, share the stream on Twitter, wherever you feel like. We'd love to get some new eyes on the stream. And we have all the different social medias below. You can find those in our bio. And also, thank you so much for the cheer, Littlest Nelly and the Great Shaman. We really, really appreciate that, as well as Lana is here. We've got Totally awesome as well in the chat. Caper Doodle being active in here.
Shouts out.
Shout out to all you guys. Brandon Bigger, thank you so much
Shouts
for
out.
stopping by. Yeah. Any personal shout out you guys want to give?
I mean, nothing. It's just great to be back. I missed you guys. I've been gone for a little while, so I hope the people missed me. I like to give the people what they want. Here I am. A lot of people were asking us, "Where's Jake? Where's that?" Like we had emails flooding in. There was letters. We kept getting calls about it. But here I am. I'm back, so we're good. You guys can quit calling and sending all the letters. Love them, but keep them.
Yeah.
Keep them.
I'll give a quick shout out to the sea lion who I meditated with this morning and wherever he is. Hello.
The most Bronwyn response you could have given there.
It's true. We connected with souls.
That is, yes, that is max in your lane. Anyways, a big shout out to producer Matt. Thank you so much. Been doing a great job here. He's new to the crew, and this is his second time doing the full show. So thank you so much for doing that. And also, we've got shout out to Totally Awesome and Caper Doodle hosting us in chat there. We appreciate you all. And that's all we got. If you guys want to follow us on any of our personal streams, you can find me at Twitter, on Twitch at Bruce Bain. Where can they find you, Bronwyn?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitch at Space Nymph.
And Jake?
You can find me on both the Twitter and the Twitch versus at Gonzo Gone Live.
And that's all we got for you guys today. We'll be back same time, same place next week. Until then, we'll see you. Peace.